times they are uncertain, of that there is no doubt, and nobody can tell me quite what it's all about. The heartbreak and the loneliness, the chaos and the fear will make even the strongest cry, I wish my ma was here. Hey Islam, how you doing? A young man on a battlefield fights for a rich man's gold. The bullet cracks into his spine, he knows he won't grow. And as the tears come streaming down, at once his mind goes clear. The war was fought for nothing, he cries, I wish my ma was here. A lively story well in hand, a joke to soothe your soul. And when it came to arguing, she'd forgive and let it go. And when I cried, she held me, told me it's okay, my dear. And as we face these darkened days, I wish my ma was here. And as we march into the streets, as all the righteous do, we'll raise our voices to the skies, they cannot stop the truth. And as we tear their structures down, we'll raise a victory cheer. We made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. We made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. Hey Loaf, how you doing, bud? How you doing? Yeah, life goes on. Life goes on, bud. You gotta, I mean, the war is raging, but gotta get the degree, gotta get the thing, gotta do the thing, gotta check the box, right? Gotta get the diploma, gotta get the thing, right? And then go get the job that probably doesn't relate to the degree that you got, right? There you go, Legon. Let's give you this. Bibbity bobbity, boom. So, a new updated image. This is, as you can see, from obviously Russian source. But the corporate media here in America is confirming this. What we're seeing here. As you can see, far more advancement, right? Much more territory seized. You can see that the operation to surround the Azov Battalion here in the east. Ongoing. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Major, good to see you, bud. The movement into Kiev, slow and steady, right? This is major operation number 1, major operation number 2. And they are slow and steady as she goes. We have already gotten reports. Chairman of the State Duma of the Russian Federation says Zelensky has escaped to Poland. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, bud. Here, Amazon, here. Oh, yeah, there you go. Like, I actually have that queued up, right? The story here, but watch before it's gone, Ukraine on fire. Amazon recently removed Oliver Stone's documentary, Ukraine on Fire. Here, I'll put that in the chat too. You guys can have it. Should put that in the Discord as well. In fact, I'll do that right now. The Oliver Stone, of course, his documentary Ukraine on Fire, right? Amazon removed it, but you can buy Azov Battalion t-shirts if you want to, right? So if you want to buy Nazi paraphernalia from Amazon, that's fine. But if you want to watch an Oliver Stone documentary on Ukraine and the lead up to this war, get fucked, right? Perfect. Thanks, Eric, bud. Of course, Jen Zedong doing good work, right? Reminding us all. They know who Zelensky is. They've always known who Zelensky is, right? From The Guardian. Back in 2015, welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. Ukraine's president's rule becomes increasingly corrupt. Ukrainian President Zelensky deepens alliance with far right. IMF ranks Ukraine as Europe's poorest country. Hate crimes against LGBT people in Ukraine. The attacks have become more and more organized. From Reuters, Ukraine's neo-Nazi problem. They know. They've always known. They've been reporting on it the whole time. Right? There's no fucking mysteries here. Right? That we have been seeing gullible dupes and the rhetoric and everything is starting to really pick up. Jen Zedong, here on on Reddit rather, our Russia was quarantined. Big concern from Jen Zedong about whether or not how long it's going to last. Right? Likely to be censored soon. Already people are making plans for where their next stop is after this gets shut down. And that is not paranoia. Right? This is the message that was sent out by the Reddit admins themselves. The conflict in Ukraine has been shocking and devastating. This is a fast-evolving situation. We'll continue to adjust our response to fit the moment. We do want to share some of the things we're doing right now to support you and our communities. First, we want to recognize and thank everybody. Yabba yabba. On our end, we're in constant contact with moderators and communities. Where does it say it exactly? Yeah, we will continue. Yeah, here you go. This is it. While many communities have already prohibited links to Russian state media outlets like RT and their foreign language affiliates, we have now disallowed them site-wide. So you can't put RT and foreign language affiliates, whatever that means, on Reddit any longer. So the echo chamber is getting tighter. It is only a matter of time until things like this get purged off the site, right? Like any kind of counter narrative whatsoever. I also was recently banned. There's a subreddit called March Against Nazis, which always had kind of an anti-Putin bent in the first place. I was banned off of it for sharing a Jacobin article. Here's the Jacobin article I shared. The CIA may be breeding Nazi terror in Ukraine. Right? And I get banned off of a literal anti-Nazi subreddit for sharing this. It is ramping up. It is ramping up. I will not be surprised to find that YouTube simply starts removing people like me. If that is the case, I will continue doing the show in my Discord. Move over to Twitch, perhaps. Like, a reason why I haven't been gung-ho about doing multi-pronged streaming is that I know that when the bridges get burnt, they're going to get burnt. Like, if YouTube wants to burn the bridge, it's going to happen. And I need to keep other platforms available and open. So I'll take a switch over to Twitch, and I'll continue doing the broadcast through the Discord if I have to. So if you want to get into the Discord, costs $1 on my Patreon. It's very straightforward. And yeah, didn't Zelensky promise he would stay in Kiev? Oh, a liar lied. Like, I mean, are we shocked by this at all? And like the pro-Zelensky side of things will be like, oh, well, he, a strategic, like, what it does do, like what this does do, is give complete lie to people who are saying, "Oh, this conflict, this will get wrapped up anytime. Like that the Ukrainians have a chance; they're going to win." Meanwhile, PBS NewsHour interviews the mayor of Konotop, Artem Semennikin, presenting him as a hero for killing the Russian invaders. However, despite his zoom blur effects, you can clearly see that behind him is a portrait of Nazi leader and Holocaust perpetrator Stepan Bandera, right there. Right? They're just openly flaunting this shit. Like, these people are Nazis. Like, this is the mayor of Konotop. Like, I truly don't know what we need to see. Like, really. And it really is to the point now where people are not interested. Like, it's reefer madness, guys. Like, here's a clip from, I believe this is an Australian show, talking about the issue. Look at what happens if you actually bring up our talking point. If you actually tell the truth on mainstream television.
So, as someone who comes from the Russian community here in Australia, I've been pretty outraged by the narrative created by our media depicting the Ukraine as the good guy and Russia as the bad guy. Believe it or not, there are a lot of Russians here and around the world that support what Putin is doing in the Ukraine, myself included. Since 2014, the Ukrainian government, together with Nazi groups like the Azov Battalion, have besieged the Russian populations in the Donbass, killing an estimated 13,000 people, according to the United Nations.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Could I finish?
Just quickly finish, and then we'll come to that and put that to the panel.
So my question is, where was your outpouring of grief and concern for those thousands of mostly Russians?
Okay, question earlier about Russia, and it's been playing on my mind. And Sasha, people here have been talking about family who are suffering and people are dying. And I understand you wanted to ask your question about, is there some reasoning for this? But you supported what's happening, hearing that people are dying. And can I just say I'm just not comfortable with you being here? Could you please leave? I've been... It's really... No, Sasha, I'm sorry. You can ask a question. You can ask a question, but we cannot advocate violence. I should have asked you to leave then. It's been playing on my mind. And I'm sorry, but I have to ask you to leave, please.
Okay, well, could I...
No, please. Just out of respect. No, please, we're not having the conversation, Sasha. We can't have people advocating violence. And I should have asked you to leave. It's been playing on my mind. I want to have a proper conversation about these things, but I have to ask you to leave. I'm really sorry. Okay, I'm sorry for that, but, these things happen. It's live television. You think about these things. It's really been troubling me that we can have a conversation and we can look at where the arguments are and we can try to look at the sides of the argument. We can't have that, and I'm sorry. It should have happened.
You can't have the truth, right? You can't have the truth. You can't include the Donbass war. You can't include the 2014 coup, right? Asked directly on television. Like live television, asked directly, refusal, we're not having the conversation, please leave, right? But Putin needs to do diplomacy, right? Like this is what's happening, guys. Like, and it's happening in real time. It's happening in front of us. The media censorship is real. The hysteria is real. Yeah, I'm getting kind of scared too. I'm actually getting kind of scared. Like, it's like, where does this go? Like, are we having a mask off moment? Will we just begin to start rounding up Russians? Will we begin, like, we're already censoring everything Russia, right? We're removing Russian stuff from the shelves. We're cutting Russia out of sporting events. Like, literally, I saw a report where they disallowed Russia from joining a world's biggest tree competition. Like, straight up. Like, there is no degree of pettiness where this will not go. Like, are Russian citizens going to start getting knocks on doors from police? I suspect so. right? Are Russian people going to start getting a little, right? There are Russian communities here and across Canada and across the United States, right? But we're getting there. Like it's happening in real time. It's happening directly in front of your face. And if you confront it, you're told to, we're not going to talk about it, and you can leave. Yeah, Guinness World Records, yeah, has made the statement. Like as pathetic as it can be. My internet shut off today. I couldn't help but wonder. Well, and like this is more or less what is going on with the war. I highly advise. Lee Camp has actually been a good source. I want to talk about the people who are on side and the people who are off side, right? Who are the pseudo leftists? Who are the real leftists? Lee Camp certainly is on side, certainly in the right place. This guy here, Patrick Lancaster, he is embedded in a Russian, I don't know if it's a battalion or what have you, but he is reporting from, well, here, I'll just let the man say it himself.
Which just less than a week ago, it was reported to be taken by DPR and Russian forces, taken control of from Ukraine, that is. We're here to find out the... I'm Patrick Lancaster, and right now we're on the Ukraine-Russia war front line in the area of Volnovakha. Right now we're in the village of Bugas, which just less than a week ago it was reported to be taken by DPR and Russian forces, taken control of from Ukraine, that is.
So this video here, they go into some of these towns. Like here they're talking to a Russian fellow, to a Russian military man. They ask him straight up, like, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, What do you want to liberate? The whole Donbass and Ukraine from this evil, from fascists, because they are fascists. They start going into these communities. They start talking to people who have been hunkering down in bunkers, right? And the story is the same over and over again. These people are fighting Nazis. Like, that's the fucking story. And we here in the West have just hit... I just don't trust that a right-wing oligarch is honestly anti-Nazi. I mean, his troops certainly are. Like, his troops certainly are, Loaf. Like, you can say what you like about Putin. And, like, for real, if Putin is... like, what is this war for, then? Like, what is this war for, then? Right? If Putin is a Nazi, right? Or is callous or doesn't care, right? So what's this war for? Right? It's not economics. Russia is taking a big economic hit doing this. Right? A huge economic hit. Like any economic argument that is being used to pretend as though Putin has economic gains to be made by doing this. Oh, okay, hold on. I'm not trying to defend the Nazis or Ukraine here, but what is your response when someone like Hassan says, if Putin is anti-Nazi, he should start by purging his own ranks? I mean, that's the war on terror argument, right? Like, you can't actually achieve that. Like, look at how difficult the Canadian military is having with it. The American military too, right? It's not so easy. People can just say, what are you supposed to do? Hey, are you a Nazi? What do you think they're going to say? Like, for real. Like, what do you think they're going to say? They're going to say no, right? So, like, and who are these Nazis that were supposed to be purging his own ranks? Like, I've seen a report where there was, like, one guy, this Wagner fellow, everybody keeps jerking off about, right? So, one Nazi in the entire military, suddenly the whole military is Nazi. Like, we are talking, like, I don't know why I need to actually continuously say this, but okay. Like, here's the Azov Battalion's website. Like, these guys have a fucking website. There's 1,000 troops, right? Like, they're very open about who they are and what they do in the world, right? Like, here's their school, here's their training. Like, there's their fucking Nazi symbol. Fill out the form, phone them. Right? Complete the questionnaire. Recruits. Here's your school. How to know us. right? You want to join their social networks? There you go, where they brag about the training Canada gave them and all that kind of shit. Like, the Azov Battalion, like, here's the Wikipedia. Like, there is a massive difference between the existence of supposed Nazis and, oh, look, we found one Nazi in the military ranks. There's a difference between that and a literal battalion, right? This article says that it's as high as 2,400 at some points, right? This is a literal battalion who has joined the National Guard of the Ukrainian Infantry. It is a battalion of Nazis who are open and are operating in the Ukrainian military. I've been showing you links about people doing interviews with Nazi, like Stepan Bandera is a Nazi leader and a fucking Holocaust perpetrator. Like, this is the mayor of a town. Like, I don't, like, what do we need here? Like, what, I genuinely don't know what to show people anymore. Like, I'm genuinely out of options here. Like, we know that the Azov Battalion is a Nazi battalion. We know it's been shelling the Donbass region for 8 years. These are just facts. Like, and yes, that is sharply different than we found a Nazi in Russia's military. Like, it's sharply different. And if you don't think it's sharply different, then I can't trust your opinion. Like, I seriously can't. Like, it's the difference between having a pimple and having cancer. It really is like a sharp difference. Both are a blemish, right? Like, both are something you should probably treat. Both are something you should look at. One is extraordinarily serious and you might lose your limb over it. Like, the comparison to Canadian and US is not good because I happen to think that we have no justification for our imperialism. In fact, I would say our imperialism enables far-right movements. Absolutely, love. Absolutely. I mean, we're funding this. Like, I can show you articles, if you need to see them, that we've been funding these neo-Nazi groups this whole time. Like, it might even be in the Wikipedia article, if you take a look at it. Like, nah. But, like, the existence and movements of the Azov Battalion is extremely well documented. Like, extremely well documented. Like, I genuinely don't know what we need. Like, Jimmy Dore showed a speech that one of these Nazis gave, completely taking credit for the Euromaidan coup. Like, we have like literal confessions at this point. I'm concerned Russian imperialism will have the same. Where is this Russian imperialism? Like, where is this Russian imperialism that I've been hearing so much about? Like, what's this Russian imperialism exactly? Like, I'm not actually familiar with this. Like, sure, there was some, like, there was some invasions under Yeltsin, Gorbachev, right? Khrushchev, these morons, right? Too stupid to keep their own country together, right? Too moronic to figure out how to keep the project alive, right? So if they're that stupid, then yeah. Under Putin, though, where's this imperialism I keep hearing about? What, moving into Georgia? You mean resolving the coup that the first Bush perpetrated against the Georgian people? Is that what we're talking about? Right? Like, I'm really struggling to see this imperialism that everybody keeps talking about in Russia. Like, where's all of Russia's military bases around the world? Where's Russia's big assault on, like, protecting your own borders from Nazis is not imperialism. I keep seeing over and over the claim that Russia is an imperialist nation. Yes, I've seen. Yeah, exactly, Eric. This is exactly what I'm saying. 30 million Russians killed during World War II by Nazis. Yeah, but we're not. That's not a no provocation of war, right? We can fund a literal neo-Nazi group to get on the borders of Russia and kill Russian citizens. Normal, Totally fucking normal thing, right? Completely normal. An imperialist nation will fund and take over a foreign country for their own benefit. So far, I don't see them doing that. Yeah. Where are all the offshore Russian colonies, like Hawaii? Yeah. Like, the worst thing that you'll see that actually has a bit of veracity is that Russia will meddle in elections on nations that are on their border. And I'm like, yeah. Like, they want those nations to be pro-Russia. Like, and you're seeing why they want that, right? Like, imagine if Canada just became an anti-American country. Just straight up. Was just like, yeah, we're going to ally with China, and we're going to be an anti-American country. Well, how long do you think that would last? Like, seriously, like, how long do you think that would last? Like, imagine if, I don't know, like, imagine if we put missiles in Cuba. Like, imagine if Putin put missiles in Cuba. What do you think would happen there? We know exactly what would happen there, right? That was the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? So, like, the hypocrisy is off the charts. Like, the hypocrisy is off the charts. Like, we're no longer rational, and I really do think, like, there's almost a gleeful giddiness about it. Like, it really is like these liberals are like, oh, finally we get to be fucking fascists again. Thank Christ. Like, we no longer have to pretend we care about these minorities. Like, oh, finally. We get to say things like, white people are civilized, right? Like, we get to, like, actually be, like, open about this shit. I am aware that Russia has not had much history of imperialism, but Putin is a capitalist oligarch. I mean, I think it would be far more accurate to call Putin a Tsar. I think that that's more accurate to what he is. Like, perhaps he came up, like, sure he owns land and sure he owns this, but given his position and given his sort of historical, the historical precedent in Russia, he goes beyond an oligarch, right? Like, an oligarch is a guy who has a lot of land and a lot of power and has political clout within a country. Putin is beyond that. Like, he is a Tsar. And as odd as that actually is, that is what is going on with him. And yeah, well aware imperialism is late-stage expansion of capital. The lack of imperialism is not due to some moral difference, but rather historical power differential on the global stage. But this is just assumptive, right? You're just assuming it, right? Like, that's what it is. Like, you're just assuming it. Like, oh, if it wasn't for America, Russia would be the imperial nation. Like, that's the claim. And that's always been the claim, right? That's always been the claim by Putin is the wealthiest man in the world? No. Like, no. And I mean, like, by what metric? Like, by what metric? I think the more dangerous people in the world are the people who own currencies. Like, someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or even Putin, like, they've got a lot of money, right? They've got a lot of money, but there are people who own the money supply. All right, Ryan, let's take a look. How rich is Putin? No. Mysterious network is a mystery no one can solve. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of shade in the conversation, right? Rumored to be the owner, right? Like, okay. Like, especially as we know how American propaganda works, right? Like, things like rumors, right? Like, I'm genuinely not that interested. Like, really. Like, if it's alleged, supposed, rumors say, I'm like, okay, people say lots of things, right? I care about source documents. I care about hard evidence. I care about boots on the ground, right? I care about journalism, like real journalism. Yeah, show those Nazis by giving your money. U.S. Congress removed the ban on funding neo-Nazis in this year's budget. It actually, that happened in 2015, Harry. That happened in 2015. That there is something circulating right now that is presenting itself as if that has just happened, but that happened in 2015. So, like, literally after the Euromaidan coup and the shelling of Donbass begun, that's when the Americans removed funding neo-Nazis from the budget. Because they were like, well, we are going to have to fund these guys. Like, we can't pretend like we're not going to do that. Yet nothing says we stand against fascism like funding fascists. Yeah. And I mean, for God's sakes, we, like, in terms of the Canadian connection, like, the Canadian connection is much stronger. Like, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. Like, we literally have the Jacobin reporting on this. An article which got me banned off of March Against Nazis, hilariously. Like, I guess they're not Nazis if they're fighting, Russians, I suppose. I guess these are the good Nazis. These are the okay Nazis, right? As long as they're fighting against Russia, it's totally fine, right? Nazism is fine if they're fighting people you don't like. Geopolitics don't operate on moral mechanisms. Oof. That's a fun claim. Marx, Lenin, etc. demonstrated that societies move based on relations and modes of production. I mean, relations. So, like, Putin's relations to the Russian people who exist in the Donbass region, like, I'd say that's a pretty strong relation. Like, Ukraine used to be part of Russia, part of the Soviet Union, right? Like, what we are seeing is a fight between siblings. Like, it's not like what the Americans do in the Middle East. It's not like what Americans do in Latin America and Africa, where it's like a white supremacist force moving in and destroying minorities, right? It's two siblings, two brothers in arms who are having a conflict with one another at the moment, right? Like, and there's a reason why Putin is moving through this region so slowly. Like, there's a reason why he's taking his time. There's a reason why he's spreading his forces steadily, right? Why they're taking territory block by block, foot by foot, right? Like, and it's because Putin doesn't want to raze this to the ground, right? He doesn't want to destroy this. Like, like, historically, this is ostensibly part of Russia. Like, and there are people here with family in Russia. Like, Putin is aware that he needs to be delicate. Is the way he is acting, is this how the Americans would act? No. Like, what do the Americans do? First thing the Americans do, right? Shock and awe, right? What's the first thing the Americans do? They drop bombs, right? They shoot missiles, they drop bombs, right? That in order to terrify and scatter the enemy, right? Shock and awe. Go in guns blazing, blow the place up. It's what they've done all across the world, right? Is that what Putin is doing? No. Like, not at all. Like, has he dropped bombs? Yeah. On strategic locations. Right? He's not leveling cities. He's not blowing up the place. Because he knows what he's dealing with. And he knows, like, yeah, there's even a recorded conversation between two state officials on what to do in the Ukraine during the 2014 coup. Yeah, where they named the names. They literally were naming the leadership that they were going to install. And, like, they've admitted it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the Azov Battalion, the Nazis involved in the conversation, have admitted it. Like, there's a confession letter. Like, and there's a confession video. Like, I don't know what we need here. I agree that Ukraine is a serious problem, but China's approach of self-determination for nations should be the baseline. I will acknowledge that NATO funding in Ukraine does prevent self-determination. The fight isn't between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine has always been a pawn in the middle. I will also concede that Russia is being less destructive than NATO imperialism ever has been. Yeah, right? Because they actually care about this place. Like, I don't see any reason to disbelieve Putin when he says that his goal is to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Like, will he seize some territory for economic gain for Russia and likely himself? Sure. Will it outweigh the economic damage that Russia has experienced from being removed from SWIFT, from having like Google and Apple Pay shut down, from having the ruble tumble, all of that kind of stuff? Like, does that balance sheet correlate? Probably not. Probably not. And the massive hypocrisy of the United States and the EU in this is that they're still buying Russian gas. Like, they're still buying Russian gas. So all this "we stand with Ukraine" shit is absolutely total bullshit. Like, total fucking bullshit. Like, if Putin is supposed to be Hitler, right? If Putin is supposed to be Hitler, well, what would you say if you found out that the United States, while it was invading Normandy, was simultaneously buying Hitler's gas? Like, what do you think the boys on the ground would have to say about that? So this stand with Ukraine shit is total fucking bullshit. Like, complete and total fucking bullshit. We're literally handing $1 billion a day to Putin and pretending like, oh yeah, that won't be used for the war effort. Like, what we are looking at is petty politics. That is what we are looking at. We are looking at petty politics where the lives of the citizens of Donbass have been used in a larger political game that is designed to keep Europe under the wing of the United States so that it doesn't pivot towards its more stable counterpart, China. Right? And also to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, like, where does Russia stand? Does Russia stand with us or does Russia stand with China? And they've just decided. They made this, like, I have gone as far to say that Putin truly did not have a choice. Not if he's a human being. Not if he's a living, breathing person with a soul in his heart. Like, or not if he's a person who's concerned about the existential survival of his own country. Like, what was he supposed to do here? Like, I keep asking this question. Like, given the actual facts of what we know about this situation, what was he supposed to do exactly? Near as I can tell, there's only two options for Putin in this, right? Option one, allow these neo-Nazis to just continue shelling Donbass, allow Ukraine to just take, to join NATO. Okay, great, super duper. So what that means, so Ukraine joins NATO. Oh, okay, cool. So Ukraine joins NATO. Now there's a line of missiles right here. There's Moscow. Right? There's fucking Moscow. Here's a line of NATO missiles. Right? And if you think that's not what's going to happen, you're fucking you're nuts. Like, you're actually nuts. Like I am Napoleon. Like, that's where you're at. If you think that Ukraine joining NATO goes anywhere but missiles here. So, the distance from here to here. Like, remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Remember how much America lost its fucking mind about the Cuban Missile Crisis? Right? Russia putting fucking missiles and nukes and shit in Cuba. America loses its goddamn mind about it. Right? The difference here is that Russia was willing to resolve that conflict diplomatically. Right? Showing that they were willing to listen to reason and sense. Right? Showing that they were willing to de-escalate the conflict. Right? Making them the better example in that particular crisis. Missiles from here to here. Totally cool? Right? Putin should just be completely fine with that. I think you're absolutely out of your mind. Like out of your mind to the level where I think you're just a Nazi. Like, that's it. Like, you want war, you want death, you want destruction, you're fine with that. Like, you might as well just be a Nazi. Just get the hat, like, get the symbol, do the salute, right? Read Mein Kampf and be like, Hitler's a genius. Like, you might as well be at that level. If you think that lining military troops along this border from NATO and the United States is good. So, option 1, completely unacceptable, right? You'd have to be fucking nuts to think otherwise. So what's option 2? That's option 2. Putin didn't have a choice. He just didn't have a choice. And it doesn't matter if you think he's an oligarch or a Tsar or evil or any of this. These are his choices. This is the circumstance he finds himself within. This is what is real. Like, this is reality. He doesn't have a choice. He's moving forward as delicately as he possibly can, while attempting to achieve his objectives, which incidentally, so he is going to, Zelensky's already fled, right? Zelensky's already fled. So now the conversation is about how many Nazis is he going to keep alive so that he can send to The Hague, right? Like, that's the real conversation. Like, he can't bring these Nazis back and execute them in Russia. Like, that's not going to look good, right? He needs to bring them to The Hague, right? He needs to put them in trial. And men like this motherfucker, right, need to go to The Hague, right? This little blue blob that you're seeing right here, that's Nazis. That's the Azov Battalion right there, right? When Putin starts dropping bombs from jet fighters, it's going to be this right here. It's going to be to destroy this. So this is going to get seized relatively peacefully, right? Zelensky's already fled, so the Russians will just take the capital, right? And taking the capital, strategically important. You can legitimately declare victory within the capital if you have it. This right here, this is the real war. And the Russians are going to treat it like a real war. Like, this is going to be hell. And justifiably so. These are neo-Nazis who have been shelling Russians. And since when have I needed to make any reason for why it's okay to kill Nazis? Fucking take a gun, shoot a Nazi in the head, you're a hero. I don't give a fuck. I don't care who you are. Right? Like, people have tried to throw shade at this Russell Bentley guy. Right? Like, Russell Bentley, who I've been reporting. You know why? And you know why they're throwing shade at him? Because he's a fucking Republican. And of course he is. Like, of course he's a fucking Republican. Like, he's a military man, for Christ's sakes. Like, he's a military man his whole life, right? Fought in multiple conflicts on behalf of the Americans, moved over to the region, and is now like a war correspondent in the region where he lives in the city of Donetsk in the Donbass region for 8 years. Been reporting from there. And people are throwing shade at this guy because he's got Republican views. He's got traditional values, let's call it, right? Like, he said some racist shit, and he's a bit of a homophobe. Like, let's be straight up. You know what? You know what else he's doing? Trying to kill Nazis. Like, so, like, what battle are you picking here? What battle are you picking here? And I got to tell you, if you're picking the battle of like, man, he said a homophobic comment, so I'm not going to listen to that guy, instead of, hey, here's a guy who's trying to kill Nazis, chances are good you're just a Nazi. Like, it's getting brutal. Like, this is getting fucking brutal. To me, it looks like the only winner here is NATO. Bing. Bibbidi bobbidi boo, dude. Like, that's what it comes down to. America is win-win, right? Like, America's win-win. It gets the win either way, right? Like, America and NATO ostensibly win either way. Either Putin allows them to take over Ukraine and they get their war with Russia, which is the goal of NATO, right? It's the reason it exists. Or Putin does what he's doing now, and they get to go, oh, unprovoked war! You're out of the system, you're this, that. And America gets to wrap its arms around Europe and go, this is mine. Right? And Europe can't, like, what, Europe's going to pivot to China now? No. So it's win-win. Like, America wins in both cases, right? That's why this is funding these neo-Nazis here, right, is a brilliant move for the United States, especially because, like, what this conflict is really proving is that the United States citizens are very stupid, very gullible, and very deluded. Like, they refuse to listen to facts. Straight up. Like, facts and reason do not matter. Evidence does not matter. If you stand up and present the facts, you get asked to leave, and no, we're not going to have a conversation about it. Like, that's what's happening here. And the Americans are well aware of how deluded and gullible their own citizens are. Economic unrest very often leads to expansion of far-right insurgency. Yeah, and at this point, we can say pretty clearly, like, that's the goal. Right? That's the point. They're fine if this whole thing goes fascist and Nazi. Like, the oligarchs and all those people, they don't care. Right? Take a look at what they did in Ukraine. Like, take a look at all this. Right? They're completely fine with it. Like, completely fine with it. That if there's this enormous resurgence of Nazism and fascism, incidentally, the one European nation that hasn't been going along with this whole idea that we should not listen to people who are telling the truth about Donbass has been France. France keeps having journalists on who keep saying the story that I've been talking about, right? Because France, like, you can see the divide as clear as Nazi monuments map. And if you pop in here's a map of monuments, Nazi monuments, Canada, United States, all throughout Europe, right? India, down in Australia, of course. Zoom in, though. Absolutely nothing in France. Absolutely nothing. 0%. There is technically less Nazi monuments in France than there is in the United Kingdom, remembering that the Nazis fucking shelled the fuck out of the United Kingdom, right? Literally dropping bombs on the UK. Technically, France has less Nazi monuments than Russia does, right? Russia has one right here, right? France, nothing. And so these guys, they know what Nazis are. They know what happens if you let Nazis take over. They know what's going to happen, right? So they're willing to have people on to actually be like, yeah, they've been shelling the Donbass region. Ukrainian Nazis have been shelling the Donbass region, funded by NATO. Like, they're being very explicit and open about it because they understand what's happening and they understand what the consequences are, right? And incidentally, France's position is as clear as it can be. We've got lots of nice stuff here, right? Paris is a beautiful city. We like it. Versailles is a beautiful area. We like it. We don't want a war to come in here and blow up all our nice shit that we spent a lot of time building, right? Do you have yesterday's map? Not on hand. I might have put that in the Discord, Eric. Check through the Discord. I bet I put that in the Discord. I'm concerned that Putin's move, regardless of the motivations, will lead to 50 years of border changes and active combat between competing powers throughout the entirety. Yeah, that's definitely a concern, bro. Like, that's for sure a concern. Like, the political landscape of the world has changed now. Like, for sure. Like, that has already for sure happened. That Russia is now seen as a pariah by the West, right? And that the old Cold War tensions are back, right? We're seeing a purge of Russian isms of Russia throughout, right? And for God's sakes, they're calling Putin Hitler for Christ's sakes. Like, so the cutoff is going to be very clear, right? And this, of course, is America shooting itself in the foot in the long term. But Americans don't plan for the long term. Like, these guys fucking fund Nazis. Of course they don't plan for the long term. Russia's going to pivot to China. Russia is already holding a conference. In a few months' time, Russia is holding a conference where it's invited groups like China, India, and Saudi Arabia, amongst others, to come to Moscow to have a anti-fascist conference where it could be like an actual pact that is signed between these powers The most interesting people being China and India. Like, Putin's trying to get China and India in a room together and have them come to some sort of formal agreement. And honestly, like, India's got to be looking at this Ukraine situation and be like, why are we working with these Americans again? Like, what? And I wouldn't be too surprised about this, bud. Like, that's the thing about war, right? War, we want to believe, and I would like to believe that this will come to a close, that Putin, once he captures the Nazi element, once he demilitarizes this region, that he'll just turn around and move home, install a puppet. Like, that's going to happen. It's obvious that that's going to happen, right? But historically, like when he did a similar thing to Georgia, right? They held democratic elections that the UN oversaw, right? But given the strategic importance here, it's very unlikely that Putin will accept anything but a pro-Russian position, right? The Donbass region declared its independence, and Moscow recognized it. Russia recognized it. So this part of Ukraine is already split from Ukraine. The map just isn't updated. Straight up. Like this region right here. Spoop. It might even be Kharkiv as well. I'm not sure. But like, spoop. This whole section, no longer part of Ukraine. Will it become part of Russia? Question mark. If Putin has a brain in his head, and he does, he'll actually leave this independent. Right? He'll leave this independent. Why? So that it can be a buffer zone like Belarus is. Right? Belarus is a buffer zone that is loyal to Moscow. It's technically its own place, though. It technically operates on its own interests, which makes international politics with it different than international politics with Moscow. And so Putin is likely going to carve this off. This will become another Belarus. And likely the person who gets installed here will be one of Putin's generals. Right? That's pretty standard Tsarist monarchical behavior. Right? Like, spoil war. Spoils of war. Right? And this also gives Putin another benefit, which is that now this gigantic border, right, that Ukraine has is cut. Deeply cut. This border becomes secured. Now if the Ukrainians want to fuck with Donbass, there's a line there. There'll be a military alliance. It'll be formalized so that this shit can't happen again. Because the thing that's made this crunchy, the thing that's made this difficult for people to understand is that there isn't a line here, right? That the Russian people who live here, right, aren't actually their own place and they're not actually part of Russia. And so it makes it difficult for people to understand what's happening. But if there's a line there and the Nazis come and start shelling, literally Putin can be like, oh, they're shelling an independent nation, in we go. And people would have to be like, yeah, I mean, that's what's fucking going on. The obfuscation here is unbelievable. And Putin's position, like Putin wants a series of buffer states here. Like, really. I don't know if he will have the ability to, but carving out like a different place, like create a line here along the river, right? Create another thing here. He doesn't want NATO to be able to just come in here, talk to one guy or one organization. Like, he wants them to have to talk to a bunch of different people and a bunch of different places. Like, I feel like the breakup of Ukraine is inevitable. Like, this place can't be one body anymore from Putin's perspective. Not if NATO is actively trying to encroach. He needs to create a bureaucratic quagmire. That's what he needs to do. And that's what he's going to do, I think. Right? And so you're actually right. Like, but think about this. It will lead to 50 years of border changes. Well, that's 50 years of NATO not invading Moscow, as far as Putin is concerned. Right? Like, that's got to be Putin's position. Right? Because this is what he's attempting to avoid. He's attempting to avoid troops on this line shooting rockets at Moscow, invading into Moscow. That's what he's attempting to avoid. And that's the reason NATO exists. Like, it doesn't exist for any other purpose. That's his stated goal, why it was erected. But you guys aren't wrong. Like, this could completely unfold into something crazier. It could escalate into something crazier. The only thing that's actually convincing me that it's not going to is that America and Europe are still buying gas from Putin. That this is all being done so that the United States can unify, right? Tighten up its relations with these European nations, right? Act like the great protector to protect these European nations from Russia, when in reality it's so that Europe won't abandon it. Right? What have I been saying this whole time? Like, for months and months now I've been saying that Europe has every reason to pivot over to China. Most of Europe's primary trading partner still is China. Most of it. Germany's the last holdout with Italy. So Germany and Italy still trade more with the United States. Everybody else, China. Everybody else. And like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the United States wants a reason to keep the Europeans in line, to keep them on side, so that they don't pivot over to China as the United States fucking collapses and implodes on itself. Right? The actual distance between Cuba and US and Ukraine and Moscow is that Cuba is actually further away than Ukraine, Moscow. Exactly. NATO never wanted Ukraine to join. Ukraine had nothing to offer NATO, and NATO has already divided the spoils of their global conquest. It's the same reason why they never accepted Russia into NATO. Well, and I mean, Ukraine doesn't even qualify for inclusion into NATO. Like, part of the reason you want a place to join an organization is that it's going to tighten up your security. It's going to lead to more security. Ukraine being part of NATO does not lead to more security, right? It weakens your security significantly. Significantly, right? You'd have to be crazy to think otherwise. I think a lot of people are just uninformed, misinformed on this conflict and NATO's strategy. That's part of it, Matthias. I have encountered outright delusion. Like, outright delusion. Like, literally, here's the Azov Battalion, here are men on the ground, here are reporters, like, here is evidence, here is a confession from Ukrainian officials, like, and just straight up, like, nah, Russian propaganda. Like, there are people who are outright deluded. And also people who I think are just like, I don't care. Like, so, fuck Putin. Fuck the Russians. Like, that exists too. These I stand with Ukraine leftists seem to have forgotten historical materialism. Yeah, because they're not leftists. It's the pseudo-left. Right? It's the pseudo-left. They're just pretending to be leftists. And they're pretending to know, they're pretending to care about Ukraine. Like, they don't actually give a fuck. I just don't see how this complete and utter destruction of Ukraine, this gargantuan humanitarian desire, is worth stopping the expansion of NATO. Really? Oh, okay. Like, you don't think that NATO and the United States are interested? Like this expansion is an existential threat to Russia, right? What have I said previously about when do nations actually begin using nuclear bombs? When there's an existential threat. That's when they do it. Right? Like, the reason why there's not going to be a nuclear war between Russia and the Americans right now is because neither Russia or America is threatened existentially. NATO is abso-fucking-lutely an existential threat to Russia. Abso-fucking-lutely. It's the reason they exist. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was an enormous conversation about why does NATO exist now? Should NATO exist? What's the purpose of NATO? And since that time, not only has NATO broken every agreement it's made with Russia, as has already been pointed out, it's rejected Russia as a member, so it doesn't want to include it in this defensive alliance, right? It's purposefully excluded it, broken every treaty it's ever made with Russia, right, encroached forward when the only demand that's ever come out, and incidentally, that was also a demand of the total boobs, right? Khrushchev, Gorbachev, Yeltsin, they all said the same thing. Don't come any closer. They made agreements, all of which were broken. The reason NATO exists, even by the admission of its own intelligentsia, is the destruction of Russia. I don't know what you need here. Like, this is an existential threat for Putin. This is an existential threat for Russia. Like this is the big time for Russia. They are, and they are not fucking around. Like, there is a reason they are acting this way. And it is because they feel threatened existentially. And when a nation gets painted into a corner like that, they fight. Right? If it's fight or die, they choose fight. And to pretend like that's not what's going on, I think is an extremely deluded position. The Russians certainly think that's what's going on. And the Americans and the European allies aren't really giving them any reason to believe anything otherwise. They're literally funding neo-Nazis to bomb Russians in Donbass. Like, what do you need? Like, it's certainly worth it from the Russian perspective. Right? Because if the choice is, well, this region is going to descend into chaos and everything's going to get ridiculous and all that kind of stuff for a period of time, but and then maybe we'll be able to tighten it back up and everything will be fine again. If the choice is between that and the certainty of war, right? Like, we're the bad guys. Like, I don't know why I kind of got to keep saying this. Like, we're the fucking bad guys. We're not the good guys. Like, at what point in our history have you been convinced that we're the good guys? We invaded Iraq. We destroyed Afghanistan, right? We're bombing Syria. There's a literal fucking genocide right here. Jordan, Lebanon, right? Yemen, don't forget about that. Oman, Somalia, Egypt. Oh yeah, the full-scale fucking destruction of Libya, which incidentally the Russians were extremely outspoken against. They consider this to be one of the worst things NATO ever did. NATO did this. This is a NATO disaster. Right fucking here. You see what they did to Libya? That's what they want to do to fucking Moscow. And why are we pretending otherwise? Like, what? I don't get it. Like, I don't get why we think that this isn't the end goal. Like, what happened to Libya is going to happen to Russia. Like, why do we not think that's the end goal? It's always been that way. Like, at what point have we become convinced that NATO isn't interested in doing that? Like, is it because Putin's white? Like, I don't get it. You have to sort of set aside ethics, morality to fully comprehend military strategy. Diplomacy can only go so far. Well, look, the diplomatic option is off the table because the Americans want it off the table. This is the problem with the anti-war position. This is their Kobayashi Maru. What do you do when you have a group of faceless Nazis stomping towards your border who will not talk to you? We should do peace, diplomacy. We should do peace, diplomacy. Okay. Great. We're trying. They're not talking to us. What do? We just let them march in, anti-war, be like, okay, we're not going to fight a war. This is ours now. Which is all they've ever done. Like, what makes you think they're not going to do this? Like, and this is not a rhetorical question. What convinces people who are pro-NATO that NATO is not going to attempt to destroy Russia like it did Libya, fucking like it did Kosovo, right? When its reason for existing is the destruction of Russia. People who say it's an unprovoked war are illiterate. And at this point, Ken, it's purposeful. Like, it's purposeful illiteracy. Like, it's intentional at this point. Russia was founded in 862, considered its first modern state. Putin is going to risk the end of his people in the entire history to gain a little territory because he's an expansionist? Yeah. What a fucking joke. Like, what? No. Like, not at all. Like, and what an enormous so Putin is just an oligarch capitalist, right? So he's just interested in wealth for himself. He's just interested in personal gain for himself. He just wants more money for himself. Why would he ever do this? Like, if that's the narrative, if the narrative is just like a power mad nut job, well, what the fuck is this then? Are you kidding me? Like, he now has CIA assassins trying to kill him. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It's not an improvement to his quality of life. Like, he was relatively well accepted by Europeans, right? He was relatively seen as benign before this, relatively, right? Bit thuggish, right, is the perception, but not a threat. Now he's seen as a threat. Like, in what world does this capitalist oligarch win if that's his objective? What, is he just a lunatic? Is he just crazed? I mean, that's the narrative that's going to start happening, by the way. He's going to do anything other than stabilize. Only time will tell. I also really doubt the sincerity of his motivations. I mean, what are his motivations then? Like, what are his motivations then? Like, it's not enough to say, I doubt the sincerity of his motivations. You have to come up with other motivations. Of course they don't plan for the long term, since capitalism doesn't plan for the long term. Money now, don't question ever, yeah. Howdy. Hey Adam, how you doing, bud? I think y'all will really enjoy this interview. It's about 20 minutes. So view it after Canadian Comedy Show is done. Alina Lip. Yeah, the girl, here you go. Put this over here. See if we can find it. Oh yeah. What if the right and the left are wrong? Alright, I'm going to take a look at that. Yeah, what if the left and the right are wrong? Whoa. There's a big fucking question. What if the conservatives and the liberals and the Republicans and the Democrats are actually fucking allies? Who's been saying that this whole fucking time? Good luck, Loaf. Good luck. I do agree that it wouldn't solve anything. Strongly believe only violence will lead to more violence. Yeah, the Indian government is far-right Hindu nationalists. That's true. Like, that is true. And I mean, you can see, like, they still have Nazi shit all over, right? Like, so the idea that the Indians are going to pivot and actually work with China when they've been, if not antagonistic, certainly chilly towards China this entire time, it's a long shot. But I think it's a shot that we need to take, or that they need to take, rather. Yeah, Modi's definitely right-wing. But again, like, this is why I say, right, it's the order of importance is humanity, class, then politics, right? And it is very likely that India perceives this as an existential threat. Do they perceive the Americans as a larger threat to them than China? That's the question. And I don't have an answer to it. Only India is going to answer that for itself. This is definitely worth stopping NATO. It's difficult for people to understand within the Western Imperial Core to understand. I think that's true. Like, one of the things I've learned when talking to Westerners about China is that we have a very difficult time understanding systems that are not liberal democracies. Like, if it's not a liberal democracy, we just think it's bad as a default, right? That, like, America's objective in the world is to spread liberal democracy, right? It's stated it repeatedly, right? The NED exists to spread democracy, right? That's the goal. They just refuse to understand that that's a disaster. That doesn't actually work, right? And so if you actually start talking about other nations that have other systems of governance, it's automatic that oh, it's bad, and then there's just no computation about how things might actually work in that country and how it might actually be different. Yeah, no, Modi is... No, you're right. Like, I'm not fighting you guys on this. I just, like... These questions that are being asked... Like, Putin is right-wing. Like, Putin's a right-winger, for sure. Like, Putin would be, like, a very comfortable... Like, this is the reason why the Russia Gate narrative, even though it's total fucking bullshit, but the reason why it plays so easily is because Putin's a Republican. Like, he's a Republican. For sure. And, but the issues that are in play supersede politics. Like, really. Like, we're talking about very human conversations here. Like, war doesn't give a fuck if you're a liberal or a conservative or a Democrat or a Republican. A bullet doesn't give a shit where your political allegiances lie. Right? Why do you say this is worth it? This is going to drive away every country in Europe towards NATO. I mean, that was already happening, bud. Like, that's already lost territory. Like, why are you fighting for lost territory? Like, those events were already occurring. Like, I find it funny that so far, every time that I've been posting truth about Ukraine on my personal Facebook page, none of my Facebook friends have ever commented on it except one guy who's a Muslim. Yeah. No, man. It's normal for people to be to want to be on the in-group. Right? I admit fully I'm the odd man out. Like, I'm the oddball here. Like, because I've already given up on this fucking fake culture and this fake society. Like, and occasionally people say to me, like, John, aren't you worried that some Nazi is gonna, like, off you or something? And I'm just like, oh, thank God. Like, let's go, right? Let's what a way to go. Something's got to get you. Might as well be a fucking Nazi. And, like, no, I'm so, like, my allegiance is to humanity, and what we are doing is going to lead to fucking disaster, like fucking disaster. A disaster that is so horrific that we may not recover from it. Like, by the time we as a species actually recover from it, there'll be another species that we're interacting with that, like, is literally, like, planning and operating on the same level as we are. Like, it'll be like the octopi. The octopi will be up on the land and being like, we think we found a solution to this problem over here. And we'll be like, oh, well, the octopi seem to think. Like, that's the shit that's going to happen if we keep acting this way. Like, this is buffoonery upon buffoonery. And the hyper-focusing on Russia, as Russia is, like, literally attempting to defend its own existential self, like, we're turning into, like, a Nazi state. Like, literally our deputy prime minister has Nazi ties, right? Goes to Ukrainian rallies and holds Nazi symbols. Has a Nazi grandfather who she says she's proud of, right? Actively funds Ukrainian Nazis during this crisis. Like, they've already evoked the Emergency Power Act, right? They've already done that. Justin Trudeau walking around in blackface. Like, people don't want to believe it because it's too hard. It's too difficult. Or have a full split along the river like a Ukraine-Berlin wall. Ah, yeah, Christ. The goal of NATO is not to invade Russia. That would be suicidal. End? Like, since when has America ever acted in a way that anyone would ever consider rational, sane, or anything? Like, are you kidding me? Suicidal is like, they're literally destroying the globe with carbon emissions, with this militarism. Suicidal, yes, that would be suicidal. So? You think these guys aren't suicidal? What, you think that they're not on a suicidal path? What? What evidence do you have to back that claim up? Their military, just by operating, is going to destroy the planet. Right? they're already, like, they've blown up this region, they've blown up all this, they blow the shit out of this. Like, there's still something like 70,000 mines in Laos that haven't been blown, right? People still step on fucking mines and bombs in Laos fairly regularly. Like, suicidal. Like, these guys have not had actual competition in warfare in like 60 years, right? Since World War II, right? They have not had a genuine competitor, and they have not fought a genuine war, and it's definitely made them delusional about what the fuck their capabilities actually are. And like, at what point do you start to say, like, no, these guys are capable of rational thought as they actively destroy the species? Like, yes, they're suicidal. We have all the evidence we need to see that they're fucking suicidal and that they're going to take the planet out with them. Like, I genuinely don't know what you need to see. There is a claim that I see nowadays that Yeltsin and Gorbachev never made the claim that NATO shouldn't expand eastward. Do we have an actual document or record that proves one way or the other? Bro. Like, the quote, Noam Chomsky has talked about this. Like, the quote is, no expansion 1 inch eastward. I'm not going to take the time to search it up. Like, there are no good guys in war. Yeah. I mean, like, war is war, right? It's fucking brutal, but we need to understand what's going on. Like, we need the context. We need to know what's going on. To the degree that we're capable. The Nazi had a science to try to determine how white a person is, and they considered the Russian to be non-white person, especially if they were communists. Of course they did. No one here is saying that we are the good guys. NATO has plenty of blame and blood on its hands, but the world isn't a cartoon that is divided into good guys and to bad guys. Like, I don't really get what your position here is, Ryan. Like, no war. Okay. Well, too bad the Americans disagree. What are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, we're the ones funding Nazis. We're the ones pushing this war. We're the ones fomenting it. What is the complaint that Russia is fighting back? Is that the complaint? Like, you would just prefer that Russia just bends over? Looks like. Yeah, the common Western belief is, oh, I know we're shitty, but at least we're not like the people out there. They are the Eye of Sauron. Yeah, there's a lot of that too. Look at these. Like, for God's sakes, like, in regards to the invasions of like Iraq and Afghanistan and throughout here, they've literally, like, will be greeted as liberators, right? They're better off now that we're there, right? That kind of fucking, like, white shit. Which they said while they were genociding the First Nations people and enslaving the black population. It's the same shit. Oh, these backward, non-civilized countries are better off with us being there. Yeah, Orientalism is strong and the both sides are bad argument for sure. NATO should absolutely not exist and certainly not expand, but this isn't about an existential threat to Russia. You're wrong. Like, you're completely fucking wrong. Like, dead wrong. Of course it's an existential threat to Russia. If a psychopath, like a legitimate psychopath, who you've seen just massacring people, walked up to you and just put his hand in your face, and just silently stared at you. Hand in your face, and anytime you tried to move your face, he just moved his hand. Not a threat, not an existential threat, according to you. John, can you watch this 4-minute video on violence regarding Fanon? This is why it's important to fight violence with violence. France Fanon thought violence was necessary. I mean, is it in the Discord, Islam? No, that's my thing. You can't put links up. Tell me what to search, Islam. Tell me what to search. Their end games still have Russia under the thumb of Western hegemony. Of course, they're not stupid enough to have a direct invasion. I mean, yes, they are. I mean, yes, they are, guys. Like, I really, Like I'm really struggling here to like they've already got neo-Nazis on the border. Like they've already got this shit. Yes, they are. Obviously, it's not going to be their go-to. They want to get military forces here. They want to get rid of Putin, and they want to install their own guy, and they want to start breaking this apart. Like, the goal is to break this shit up. Like, obviously. And they're going to use every scummy, shitty little method they possibly can. Like, they're already going to war with them. Like, this is a fucking proxy war. No, can't see 3 minutes. 3 minute thought on violence. Got it. You're saying it's a video? Here you go.
On Violence is the first section of the 1961 book written by Frantz Fanon called The Wretched of the Earth. In this section, Fanon undertakes to analyze the specificities of violence within the context of decolonization. He tries to answer the following question: what are the negative and positive aspects of violence? Fanon himself was born and raised as a colonial subject under the rule of France in the archipelago of Antilles. His relationship with the powers of colonization is therefore acutely felt and extremely personal. Fanon describes decolonization as a historical process where two contradicting powers meet each other face to face, the colonizer and the colonized. The colonizer, for Fanon, is the one who brings violence in the home and into the mind of the native. In fact, Fanon thinks that violence is the defining characteristic or the natural state of the colonial rule. Such violence is not always physical. It often manifests itself as a form of cultural discrimination or outright dehumanization of the native subject. The very psyche of the colonized subject is successfully fabricated by the colonizer who tries to shape an animal out of the colonized. Correspondingly, when the colonized subject is rendered non-human, colonizers are left, in their effort to control the non-human, with a single option: constant physical violence. For Fanon, therefore, the process of decolonization really is about the creation of new men. Through active participation in decolonization, native people can bring about a new generation of men with a new language and a new humanity. But how does violence fit into all of this? As we mentioned, violence is the natural state of the colonizer's rule. Therefore, in order to liberate themselves, native people have to find an outlet through which the forces accumulated in the forms of colonizers' aggression can be released. This is what Fanon calls the collective catharsis, which describes native people's experience of violently obliterating the colonial rule. By virtue of this decolonizing violence, the colonized subject can reclaim the new generation of men, a new language, and a new humanity. The humanity that once had been denied to the colonized subject can be regained, according to Fanon, by engaging in revolution. Fanon says, violence frees the native from his inferiority complex and from his despair and inaction. It makes him fearless and restores his self-respect. Most importantly, by engaging in liberation, the colonized subject discovers that his life, his breathing, and his heartbeats are the same as the colonists. The colonized subject discovers that the skin of a colonist is not worth more than the natives. Fanon clarifies, however, that violence can never be pursued without a clear political goal. Violence, which may bring about liberation, also leaves behind untreatable physical and mental problems. Revolutionary violence may in fact leave native people rootless and stateless. Fanon is determined to describe violence as equally harmful to both the colonizer and the colonized. For Fanon, there is no reason why the violence that destroyed the indigenous fabric should not result in vindication and appropriation of such violence when the colonized finally swarm into the forbidden cities.
Yeah, the cyber attacks, the sanctions, America's already in a direct war. The funding of Nazis. War is fought in many ways nowadays, not always boots on the ground. Yeah. And like, I don't know why you guys don't think that like Americans wouldn't manage to get boots on the ground in Russia. Like, what do you, like, absolutely. Like, if we're talking about an escalation to war, like, that's the objective, right? That NATO was planning to literally invade Russia. I don't know what you need, dude. There's Nazis shelling Russians. Is it because there's not a little line right here? Is that the struggle you're having? That there isn't a little line right here? Right? What you think that they're not going to start shelling this area? Right? Like, I don't get your position at all, dude. Like, at all. Like, so no little line right here, right? So Nazis shelling Russians here, right, isn't a war, right? Isn't a provocation. Isn't it like the literal Nazis who are boots on the ground, right? The Azov Battalion is boots on the ground. Who do you think's shelling these people? And who do you think's funding them? Like, what do you think? You think after they're done taking this over, let's say they actually defeat the Russian military. What do you think they're going to do? Like, is it because it's not like an American born in like Tennessee? Is that what you mean when you say boots on the ground? It's got to be some like kid from Nebraska? Like, that's what boots on the ground is? Certainly, like, if we actively fund militia groups here to destroy Russians here, right? It's technically not Russia because there isn't a little line here. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Considering Fanon, it's not surprising that Russia is responding the way that they are. They have a vested interest in protecting their people from the encroachment of Nazism, yeah? Hey, Video Central, how you doing? There are 40 million people in Ukraine. Is it right for us to advocate they be put in harm's way for a greater good? We're fighting Nazis? Like, we're fighting Nazis. My question to you, if someone comes up to you and just starts smacking you in the face, just starts smacking you in the face, just smack, 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 smack. How long until you defend yourself? For Russia, it took 8 years. Yeah, that's correct. And it's like, again, from the American perspective, this is petty politics, right? Like, the American perspective is that this is petty politics. They're using Ukraine. They are sacrificing Ukraine. They are sacrificing Ukraine to gain victories on the international stage, to secure alliances with Europe so that Europe doesn't pivot to China. Like, that's cool. Spread me around. I'm happy. I'm happy. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if there are enemies in here listening to me. I hope they're listening. Right? Like, spread it around. Send it wherever you like. I see my stuff on Enough Commie Spam. I see my stuff. I'm happy that the fucking Nazis see me as a threat that they need to spread around. I'm happy about that. That's good. If you don't make enemies, if you don't have enemies, are you really alive? Yep, I saw a video of a bunch of frozen bodies of people in cars who were senselessly murdered by the Nazis trying to flee Melitopol. Like, there are credible sources and credible evidence saying that the Nazis are keeping people from actually fleeing these cities. That it's not that the whatever. Yeah, because I'm sure that there aren't Nazis there. From what I've encountered. Why do you think NATO or the U.S. won't enforce a no-fly zone? What on earth? Boots on the ground around? Dude, so you're aware that there are Nazis here, right, Ryan? Like, at this point, I don't think you are. Like, and you don't think that's boots on the ground. Like, I think I'm good, bud. I think I'm going to move on from you. The whole Ukrainian ethos is we're a victim of bullying and oppression and we just want to self-determinate. So why won't the Ukrainian state let Donbass and Crimea self-determine? Yeah. Like, you realize you're supporting a Nazi-styled invasion. Like, so you are aware that do you know what the Azov Battalion is, bud? Like, do you know about the Nazis that are bombing the Donbass for the last 8 years? Right? Nazi-styled invasion. Since when is fighting back against Nazis a Nazi-style invasion? Like, that's a joke. Like, that's a fucking joke. No, he hasn't. Putin has taken a page from Hitler's playbook. He's not shelling Kiev. He's not dropping Hellfire missiles. He's not destroying destroying cities. The comparison to Putin and Hitler is a joke. Like, that's a fucking joke. And meanwhile, take a look what the Americans have done all across the Middle East, Africa, South America. Like, what a fucking joke you are. Get the fuck out of here. Like, Putin has taken a page right out of Hitler's playbook. Go back to CNN. Go back to fucking CNN, dude. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, sorry there's Nazis killing Russians and have been for the last 8 years, and you don't want to fucking pay any attention to that at all. Because you don't care. Like, you don't care that we have been funding neo-Nazis who have been shelling the Donbass for 8 years. That doesn't matter to you. Right? No, the real villain in the story is the person who's actually killing the Nazis. He's literally shelling residential areas under the fake idea that they're peacekeeping. Literally what no, it isn't. It's not literally what Hitler did. Bro, do you know about the Azov Battalion? Are you aware? Do you have the cognitive sense to put together that there is a Nazi group shelling Donbass? It's been going on for 8 years. And the CNN that you watch hasn't been reporting it. Like, where's your outrage when the Nazis are literally shelling Donbass? When the Ukrainian Nazis, who couped the government in 2014. Tell me what to search, bud. Tell me what to fucking search. Like, you're going to give me, like, what, alleged, supposed, like, all that kind of nonsense. Following that logic, France is fascist. America is fascist. Britain is fascist. I think I'm onto something here. Yeah, exactly, right? If people defend themselves, they're fascist, right? Like, Donbass has been shelled and attacked by the Kiev puppet regime and their Nazi thugs for 8 years. Yeah. Like, that's called collateral damage. If you don't want civilians to die, you shouldn't support the Ukrainian government, which started the war. And they admit it. Like, that's the thing that's crazy about this, right? They admit it. Like, they're not keeping it a secret. Like, that's the thing that's so fucking bonkers about this, is that the Nazis in Ukraine are open about this. Like, they confess. They talk about it. Oh, the Washington Post, so Jeff Bezos. Okay, great. Putin's attack on Ukraine echoes Hitler's takeover of Czechoslovakia. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to search up the Washington Post, bud. You can go suck Jeff Bezos' cock. We're talking about an existential threat to Russia. The Azov Battalion is not an existential threat. Yeah, get fucked. Yeah, Nazis are not an existential threat to Russia. They just killed 26 million of them. Like, what a fucking joke, dude. Yeah, Nazis are not an existential threat to Russia. They just killed 26 million of them. You know, normal position to take. Totally normal, right? Not weird, not creepy, not suspicious at all. Like, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Yikes, bud. Yikes. It's yikes time, dude. Yikes. All right. I'm going to move off from the war, guys. I'm not talking about it anymore. I'm done. There's other news. I've talked about it. That's what it is. Yeah, if you're getting your information from the Washington Post, this is you right now, dude. Just right in your brain. Just jacking it. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Get the fuck out of here. Go back to CNN. Go back to the Washington Post. Fucking loser. Keep defending Nazis, buddy. Keep defending Nazis. Yeah, thanks, Mocked. The Nazi apologetics is brutal. Like, even Ryan's not fucking defending the Nazis. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Let's do it. I'm going 10. I'm going 10. All right, what do we got?
Here we go for today's number.
Here we go.
It's March 4, 2022.
No. Stop defending
balls.
Nazis, you loser. Get the fuck out of here.
Each ball has a number. Numbers 1 through 10. Swirl the numbers. Pick a number. Today's number is...
What do we got?
8.
Ligandese with an 8. Looks like you're alone. We had a good spread this time. What would have missed it? A 9? Da 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 da. You did it, bud. Go buy that lottery ticket. Ask that girl out. Go do a thing that you wouldn't do normally. Do the thing you've always wanted to do. Chase the rainbow. Fly the kite. Jump over the moon. Fight, punch a Nazi. Fight the power. I don't know. Do what the thing you wanted to do. Do it now. You've got the energy of David Lynch with you. Let it propel you forward into the world. Let it propel you forward into the world. Russell Bentley, fucking American hero. All right. No more Ukraine. No more Ukraine. Let's talk about something more cheerful than a Nazi-fueled war. Majority of Canadians say they can no longer keep up with inflation. Been reporting on this, right? Now this is a Financial Post article. Gaining credence, gaining credibility. 53% of respondents in an Angus Reid poll say their finances are being overtaken by the rising costs of everything from gas to groceries. The Bank of Canada's efforts yesterday to tame inflation by raising interest rates couldn't come soon enough for a majority of Canadians who say they can no longer keep up with the cost of living. And of course, the only way that the Bank of Canada and the only way that the power structure, like the death cult, right? The only way they're actually going to try to tame inflation is by making it more difficult for people to borrow money. Like, that's what raising interest rates do, right? Ryan, we're done. Like, we're done. I will ban you, bud. Like, we're done. Like, I'm no longer interested. Like, I have a psychic threshold. I have met it. We're moving on. According to a poll an Angus Reid Institute released this week, 53% of respondents say their finances are being overtaken by the rising costs of almost every staple of daily life, from gasoline to groceries to housing. That comes as the consumer price index pierced through the 5% mark in January, rising... You too, bud. Get fucked. Keep defending Nazis, bud. See... That's completely you know what? No, that's completely indicative, right? I'm literally fighting Nazis and you're making snide comments off on the side like the baby you are. Get completely fucked. Get completely fucked. Yeah, we're tired of Nazi sympathizers around here, bud. Really tired of it. And you know what's going to happen, video? While you're making your snide little baby comments off on the side, I'm going to get censored, right? The Nazis are going to come for me, bud. Like, what do you think fucking happens here? We're already seeing RT television getting stripped. We're already seeing mass censorship. We're already seeing people who stand up and actually say, like, hey, what about the shelling on mainstream media get removed? We're seeing silencing. We're seeing censoring throughout the internet, throughout Twitter, throughout the corporate power structure, throughout the government. What do you fucking think happens to a guy like me while you make your shitty little comments? Fucking unbelievable, man. Like, fucking unbelievable. According to a poll from the Angus Reid Institute released this week, 53% of respondents say their finances are being overtaken by the rising costs of almost every staple of daily life, from gasoline to groceries to housing. That comes as the consumer price index pierced through the 5% mark in January, rising 5.1% year over year for the first time since September 1991. The surging inflation's rate is translating into higher bills at the grocery store as food prices climb. Prices in January rose 6.5%. Guys, I'm going to be real serious here. I literally am going to start banning people. Like, straight up. And I don't care. Like, please stop. Please. I'm actually asking you out of the kindness of my heart, from human to human. I have reached my threshold. I'm over it. I'm done. Like, I'm at the limit. Okay? Like, I am a person. I'm a human being. I have emotions. I have feelings. Right? I can take psychic damage. I have taken the psychic damage that I can take today. I still have an hour and 20 minutes in this show. I have a lot of other subjects to cover. Please, I am actually asking you as a human fucking being. We're moving on. I will start just fucking banning people. You're in at a weird time, Rusty. You come in at a weird time, bud. Let's just say I'm over the Ukrainian conversation. I'm good. Capped. Not interested in side commentary. Not interested in any of that. I'm capped out. I'm capped out. It's too much, man. It's too much. Like, I get why people don't want to take this route. Makes a lot of sense. It's the harder route. For sure. It's the harder route. It'd be so much easier. I could be like Vosh right now, guys. Right? And I bet a lot of you would just go along with me. Honestly. Like, stand with Ukraine, guys. Russia, what a bad guy. This is exactly what happened to me. Exactly. Step for step. Step for step. This is exactly what went down when we invaded Iraq. Same fucking story. Right? When we invaded Iraq, I said, this is fucky. This is fucky. And I know it's fucky. This WMD bullshit is a bullshit story. It's total fucking shit. And I knew it right from the outset. And everyone around me did exactly this shit. Oh, John, here's a pro-military, pro-corporate article that justifies our invasion of Iraq, right? No, it's normal for a society to just fucking destroy a place. Completely normal. Normal thing to do. Normal, right? Oh, well, the Iraqis are fighting back. How dare they? How dare they fight back? Don't they know violence is wrong? Right? Those Iraqis should just submit. Don't they know that fighting back is wrong? I've heard all this shit before. All this shit. Over and over and over again. It's the same story. Same narrative. Same shit. Always scapegoating somebody. Always finding a thing. It's just Putin this time. And he's just bigger. That's all. He's just bigger. We turn the corner on this eventually. The question is, how much damage are we going to do to ourselves before we do it? Took a couple of years with the Iraq lie. Right? It's better to get on side now. Get on side sooner. You look like less of an asshole 2 years from now. When everybody says, oh yeah, we always knew about the Nazis. Yeah, those Nazis. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, we always knew. We always knew. Yeah, because Iraq in the 19th century had an industrial base. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Mock. That's a good comment, bud. We got a lot of that going on in the chat today, where we're pointing out that, like, yeah, it's like this, but worse. Right? Like, oh, it's like the Cuban Missile Crisis, except the missiles are closer. Okay. following my own advice. I'm following my own advice. The surging inflation rate is translating into higher bills at the grocery store as food prices climb. Prices in January rose 6.5% compared to 5.7% in December, marking the biggest jump since May 2009. Statistics Canada data show. With all this record-breaking data coming home to roost, it's no wonder consumers are feeling the strain in their personal finances. Half of those surveys said they wouldn't have had the means to cover an unexpected $1,000 expense. Further, 1 in 7 said they wouldn't be able to handle a surprise bill of any amount because their budget is already too stretched. The fallout from inflation goes beyond worries about unexpected expenses. Canadians are adjusting their spending too. A large majority of respondents, 75%, said that they've changed their spending habits to mitigate the effects of rising costs on their pocketbooks. Some are cutting out expenses completely, and discretionary spending, 53%, major purchases, 41%, extra trips in the car, 31%, and vacations, 29%, are just a few of the things people say they're doing without. 1 in 5 also say they're putting savings on the back burner. Like, this is a collapsing economy, guys. Literally 75% of the nation is telling you that they are cutting out discretionary spending, right? Major purchases. What is an economy? If people aren't spending and buying, you have a weak economy. 41%. Extra trips in the car, 31%. Vacations, 29%. Like, this is what a collapsing economy looks like. Yeah, I hate how they call human beings consumers. For sure, dude. For sure. To be fair, this is the Financial Post. They've never been secret about how they view us. It's just nobody actually reads it. Like, the only people who actually read this are the people who are invested in the system of capital. Right? At least they don't just openly call us slaves. At least we're just consumers and employees, right? We're stock, right? Like, that's terminology they'll use. Perhaps not surprisingly, families with children are more likely to have reined in discretionary spending and put the brakes on major purchases. They are also more likely to have paused contributions to savings and pensions funds such as RRSPs and TFSAs. Overall, household budgets are a stress point for 70% of Canadians, more than double the number of those who say it never bothers them. The poll revealed more key findings about people's personal finances. 1/3 say they have too much debt, and people in the prairie provinces are more likely to report feeling the squeeze. Starting with Saskatchewan, 51%, Manitoba, 46%, and then Alberta, 45%. There's your PPC. Like, there's your PPC. Oh yeah, remember in economic textbook we were called human resource or human capital. Yeah. Worry over possible job loss is also the highest in the West. At least 2 in 5 in Alberta. BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba said they were worried someone in their household could lose their job because of the economy, the poll found. Looking at the big picture, 31% of Canadians are staying ahead of the financial curve, 21% are keeping up, 21% are losing pace, and 27% are falling behind, according to Angus Reid's Cost of Living Index. So let's say that again. 27% of people are going down the fucking drain. 21% are right behind them. I don't really know what the difference between falling pace and losing pace is. Falling behind and losing pace. Right? So you literally have 48% of your country falling back. 21% are just keeping up. So go work a full-time job and all it does is pay your bills. 31% says they're staying ahead. There's your investors and your rich cocksuckers right there. Right? So, you're liberal voters, right? 31%. You're liberal voters. So just like cut these people off, abandon them, who gives a fuck? Keep voting liberal. I'm going to play a song. Anybody got any requests? Anything anybody want to hear? I'm going to play the silly one. Baby, how was I supposed to know? Something wasn't right here, oh pretty baby, I shouldn't have let you go. Now you're out of sight and show me how you want it to be. Tell me baby, I need to know now what we got. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe when I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me baby one more time. Oh pretty baby, the reason I breathe is you. Girl, you got me flying. Oh pretty baby, there's nothing that I wouldn't do. It's not the way I planned it. Show me how you want it to be. Tell me babe, I need to know now what we got. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe when I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me baby one more time. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe when I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby one more time. Oh yeah, dude, Ryan, you're on the money with this one, bud. That's the take, dude. So many delusional crypto bros are saying crypto is the solution to inflation. Deflationary is actually far worse. I mean, crypto's a fucking disaster, dude. Like, it's just a fucking disaster. It's I don't see it as a grift for rich people to get richer, although that's certainly part of it. But it's just a retreat into a fantasy world. They're literally burning down reality so that they can retreat into a fantasy world they've created. That itself will eventually implode. Like, it takes the same amount of energy to fuel Bitcoin as the country of Ireland. It takes the same amount of energy to fuel Ethereum, which is the NFT, right? The NFT one, yeah. It takes the same, all those NFTs you're hearing about, all those NFT market and how great the NFT market is, same amount of energy as the country of Argentina. And boy howdy, bud. Phobo, it is for sure a Ponzi scheme. For sure. I knew it was a Ponzi scheme the second I saw Kevin O'Leary selling it. As soon as I saw Kevin O'Leary selling it, I was like, scam. There's no way this fucking grifter, if he's involved, like, it's for sure a scam. And like, oh. Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna be like when I'm grown? I looked up at the crimson smoke-filled sky. I thought, what's the harm in telling one more lie? I said, everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? The burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point of feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? And I know one day my maker I will meet, when death's sweet kiss comes and sweeps me off my feet. I hope by then we've learned a little more. I'd like this place to be better than before, where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? When everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. Antarctica is covered in And even now, I still believe. I still believe that we can do it. I still believe that we can do it. Because the solution the solution is so easy. And the consequences of it are so comparably easy than what we're doing now. We don't need to make anything. We don't need to create anything. We don't need to come up with a solution. The earth was a garden before we even got here. It created itself a garden. And from that garden, it created us. That we came from this earth. That it's more than capable of healing itself, thank you very much. We don't need to help it along. We don't need to facilitate or even take credit. All we need to do is stop. That's all we need to do. Stop extracting oil. Stop burning oil. Stop military adventurism. Stop funding these goddamned Nazis. Just stop. And when we do, and I believe that we will, I believe that we will, we'll stand back and witness the absolute miracle of the earth healing itself. And if we want to be here to see it, all we have to do is stop. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Phobo. Thanks, bud. I love this song. I do. It feels so good to play this song. I feel it takes me to a better place. And that's exactly it. Like, from Don't Look Up, we really had everything, didn't we? We still have it. That's right. And the amazing irony of it all, the solution is easy. It actually is. Like, will there be hardship? Yeah. Will there be sacrifice? Yeah. Will it be the greatest sacrifice that any human has ever made? No. Our grandparents went and fought Nazis. They fought and died against a regime that was hell-bent on exterminating huge groups of people. And there are people fighting those Nazis today. And if you're on the right side, you know who they are. I think you should just find a funny video like try not to laugh challenge, something silly to help shift your mind. Oh yeah, bud, I spend a good deal of my time. I'm reading a book right now. I read audiobooks for to pay my rent, and for my own personal enjoyment. I've like read the whole Harry Potter franchise out loud. Mary Stewart's Arthurian trilogy I've read aloud. Beautiful books. And I'm reading, I just finished reading an economics book, which was actually a fascinating read, because it showed me that the capitalists are getting scared, that the capitalists are very worried about these climate change catastrophes, that they are erecting measurements by which to assess environmental damage, and they're starting to take it seriously. Men like Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, are starting to say, hey, we got to actually do environmental, because they're beginning to actually piece together that if the world blows up, there's no money to be made. The name of it's not up on Amazon yet. But it's how to invest sustainably. It's pro-investor, it's pro-capitalism, but it's definitely the capitalist position for how capitalism might begin to actually invest in sustainability, right? And what I saw and my big takeaway from it, it was a dry read, guys. It was a dry read. A lot of like the ESG rating in the fourth quartile is 5.3% over the mean. If the financial district industry written by Sir Georgy Mostlikov is correct, then investors should see an improvement of 0.03% over the long term. Like, imagine 150 pages of that. But it was thorough. And well-informed, well-researched. The capitalists are building a system to measure environmental concerns in companies. Like, to create a rating system by which they can measure the environmental impact a company is having. And he was very thorough. I was very impressed. Like, it was dry, but I was very impressed with the research, that he went through the history of building these measurement systems. And these measurement systems have come into place very recently. And, like, no joke, like, when you've got the CEO of BlackRock saying, we are going to start paying attention to this and we are going to abide by these, like, that's not zero. Like, that's not zero. And while I am an anti-capitalist, certainly, and I think that we should be rid of this investor class, I don't mind if they start talking about, hey, maybe not with the suicide. And one of the key arguments that is set out in this is, sure, if you invest in green energy, or what they would call sustainable investments, you should expect slightly less return on investment. However, as the argument goes, you'll make up for that by reducing risk, right? What they're starting to call risk. So instead of externalizing environmental concerns, instead of environmental concerns being externalities, now they'll start to be included in the formula, because they're starting to see that they can't externalize. Like, after the BC flooding incident, like if the BC flooding incident doesn't wake you up, then you're really gone. Like, you're really, really gone. Like we need to just wait for you to die to no longer be part of the conversation. Gone. Can you imagine being an investor in that industry in the BC Valley? Yeah, okay, so slightly less returns on investment, but I didn't have to lose all my money because of this flood. right? And flooding like that in the old way of thinking, well, that's just an externality. Right? Don't worry about that, except you should. Yeah, BC burned then flooded. Yeah, it's true. And so I just finished that. I finished reading that story, or that book, and I submitted it. I expected a bunch of notes. They gave me 0 notes, just approved it. So I'm awesome. Thank you. Tip of the hat. And that's going to go up on Amazon soon. I think in 10 days, so long as they think it's good. I know, right? I'm working with Amazon. What can you do? You can't not. And and now that I'm finished with that, that was very dense and a very intense read. Very intense read. Very intense. Because you got to stay so focused, right? Every single word, like there's no like easy words. Like every word is like the thesaurus version of the word. So everything is like as intense as it could possibly be. And now I've pivoted over and I'm literally reading a spy novel, like, which is actually fun. I get to do voices and shit. I get to like pretend to be people, right? Which is fun. And the language is, and there's like a romance element to it, which is nice. So that's something of a break. That's something of an ease. Typical economic textbook. Yeah, Eric, for sure, dude. For sure. And like, I try really hard to like, when I finish this, when I finish like the stream and all that, I do try to not pay attention. I try to soothe the soul a little bit, because today is especially tough because I didn't get any sleep last night, and so I'm also like fairly tired. But that's life, isn't it? That's life, isn't it? Oh, tough stream today. Tough stream today. It's okay. They're not all gonna be easy. So Ontario PCs hold lead as voters weigh handling of pandemic restrictions, trucker convoy poll. Like, right now the Conservatives are polling at 39%. The Democrats and the Liberals are tied at 27%. I think Ford's going to win again. I just think he is. Like, I think that everyone's going to go to the polls and they're going to have forgotten about COVID. He'll have lifted all the restrictions and everything, so people will be on this kind of like post-COVID, like la 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 la, right? The whole like stand with Ukraine thing, right? Ford didn't bungle it. He didn't do anything. Like literally just like hashtag stand with Ukraine, and like that's all you got to do. His privatization efforts haven't penetrated into the consciousness of the public. They don't know about it. Christina Elliott resigned, by the by. She was the Minister of Health, right? She resigned. She's not running for her seat again, so she's done. I think probably because, like, how could you stomach what's about to happen to Ontario's health system? John, you should cover Skinny Love by Bon Iver. I don't like Bon Iver. But for you, Bon Iver. Here, I'll put that in the corner. I'll give that a listen. I'll come back around on that for you, okay, Islam? Skinny Love. I'm not going to sing like Bon Iver, dude. I'm not going to be like, I'm singing like Bon Iver. Yeah, beautiful, right? Beautiful. Can you tell? I'm a fucking professional. We're basically 2 months out before the puck drops, so to speak, says Andrew Enns, Executive Vice President at Legger Winnipeg office. Now is when you start to look at who's got some momentum going into the campaign and where the parties are in terms of their ballot. Honestly, man, the NDP look dead. Like, they just look dead in the water, right? Like, they're like, are these guys even campaigning? Where? To who? On what principle? For what purpose? To what are they even saying? What are they even promising? Like, Canadian oil companies illegally bulldozed protected land in Africa. Right? Normal society, right? Totally normal for a Canadian oil company to just fucking bulldoze protected land, right? Completely normal. Get ready for Uber being cheaper than calling an ambulance. Yup. Like, the privatization movement that exists here, and if Ford gets a second term, it's he's just gonna go for it. Like, it's gonna be a gutting. Like, he's not gonna bullshit, right? Like, if he gets a second term, he's fairly aware that he's not gonna get a third, right? Like, that's actually fairly rare in Canadian politics for a politician to get a third go. And in many ways, I think Ford is going to view a second term as like a reward for his good stewardship over the COVID period. And he's just going to gut it. He's just going to gut the shit out of it. And like, of course, he'll sit on the board of directors of whatever is like the most profitable thing in order to make sure that when you're paying like $50 for a vial of insulin or $100, I had a mental breakdown for a week when he got elected the first time. Yeah, dude. Like, it's like he's a disaster. And Ontarians don't seem to think so. Like, that's the weirdest part about Ford. Like, he's a disaster. But everybody's just like walking around being like, yeah, normal. It's completely normal to commit austerity against the public. Like, I know people who like were going to school and had to stop because of what Ford did. Like, literally, they're like one term out from being finished school, and they're just like, yep, I just ran out of money. Like, just, we're done. I need one more term of classes, and I can't afford it. So that's all done. Right? Like, the incompetence of the Ford administration mixed with its, like, nefarious hatred for its own citizens is stunning. Yeah, how is an ambulance not an essential medical service? I had a seizure and I got billed for the ride to the hospital. I was supposed to die. Yeah. I can't pursue a PhD because of Ford. There you go, Famita. I was considering going back to school myself. Right? Yeah, drive myself. Like, what are you talking? Yeah, exactly, Ryan. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? So fucking brutal. And, like, this idea, I don't understand how conservatives get pegged with this, like, they're financial stewards. They're the better at finance. It's like, what the fuck? No, they're not. Like, these guys, like, financial stewardship is destroying your economy, right? Literally, they're parasites. Like, literally. That if you erect a public service, right, well, the government pays for that public service, and that public service is made available to the public. And the government can do that because the government is the one that's responsible for creating the money in the first fucking place. And exactly, Fabita. Just don't have the seizure, dude. Yeah, just, Ryan, man. Bro, have you thought about just not having the seizure? You gotta you put some thinking into that, buddy. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, okay? Like, really stand up straight with your shoulders back, author your own fate, and just don't have seizures next time, bro. Like, I'm saying that like sarcastically to be an asshole, but like that's what they're saying to us. Like, that's basically what they're doing. Like, it's so fucking ridiculous. And this idea that, like, conservatives are good financial stewards while they literally gut the economy. What you think committing austerity against the public sector isn't a gutting of your economy? Like, and you just cross your fingers and hope the private sector is going to pick it up? When in reality, like, they just parasticize the system, make it less efficient because they exist, right? Like, at bare minimum. Oh, yeah, you got to get that Neuralink implant, right? Those are safe, right? No reports of monkeys dying because of those. Just need a little duct tape. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly, right? I'm sure that when you get that Neuralink implant, it'll be completely normal and everything will be completely fine. So it's certainly not like this, like a Nazi-level eugenics campaign Like, it's certainly not like a weird, like, creepy freak off in the corner just torturing monkeys in pursuit of his odd little ambition and idea that we can put, like, chips and shit in people's brains for reasons, right? Yeah, of course people should be scared of Neuralink. Of course people should be scared of that. Are you kidding me? Like, even if they created the tech and it was seamless and it was painless and they could insert it in your brain and everything was completely fine and it worked exactly as advertised, I still think that's a fucking stupid ass idea. You don't need a chip in your brain, right? If this gets hijacked, if this gets hijacked, you go, oh, my phone. Oh, my phone. My phone doesn't work. Oh no, my phone is broken. Guys, my phone broke, bro. No. If this gets hijacked, if this malfunctions, if this stops working, yeah, it's the fucking dumbest idea. Like, even if it works as advertised, it's the stupidest thing that you could possibly do. I can't think of a dumber decision to do. And, like, you can just kill literally whoever it will with Neuralink. Like, lights off for you, right? Like, this is super villain shit. Like, we're setting ourselves up for super villainy and we're just watching it happen and we're just being like, well. And, like, let's not forget that it completely plays into the mass paranoia that exists within the Christian evangelicals, right? This is like Mark of the Beast shit. Like, get the Neuralink. It's not the mark of the beast. And they'll call the Neuralink, like, they'll just lean into it. They'll just be like, yeah, it's the brain. I don't know. I'm too tired to be clever. Yeah, exactly. You think Google is bad for using your search data to sell ads? Wait till Musk is literally in your brain. Yeah, like, it's like that scene from Futurama where Fry is like, sure, we had advertisements in the 21st century on the side of buses and buildings, on street corners, in ads, in television shows, in newspapers, but not dreams. Well, yes. Jinx. But like I'm and I know that people will say to me, like, oh, John, like, that's, yeah, dreaming ads. It's what people do, body modification, people do all that kind of stuff, so on and so forth. Like, you're just being like an old man or something like this. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm actually cool with the idea of, like, cybernetic parts, like an arm or something, like a cybernetic arm. Like, that seems fine, right? Even like something like a cybernetic heart, right? Like that kind of stuff, like cybernetic organs or stuff. I truly do not think that putting shit into your brain is a good idea. Like, really, first of all, we know nothing about the brain. Like, we know basically nothing. Right? Like, we're at like the baby level when it comes to knowing anything about the brain. And you're telling me that we're just gonna jam shit into it? Seems like a bad fucking idea, bro. And like, why? That's the other side of it. Like, why? Do me a favor. Tell me what you think installing a chip in your brain, how will that be any different than just having a phone? Is it because it's just on you all the time? You can just have it, right? Is that the major difference? Like, I don't know, dude. Then just like tie a chain to this, like keep it right on you. Like, why do you need this? What does it actually do for you? Have you seen the movie Chappie? I haven't actually seen it. Oh wait, have I seen Chappie? I know the movie you're talking about, Chappie movie. I haven't actually seen this movie. And it's the kind of thing because, like, when it came out, I was like, hey, do you guys want to watch Chappie? We should watch Chappie. And literally everybody around me was like, bah, get fucked. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't want to watch it by myself, so I didn't. Chappie is a robot fairy tale with too many glitches. Business Insider says underrated robot movie. Right? Here's the difference between Business Insider and Vanity Fair. Right? Vanity Fair's title, Chappie is a robot fairy tale with too many glitches. Right? Business Insider style, Chappie review. Underrated robot movie. Yeah, I got to tell you, I think that all of the mythology and all the narrative that we've created around uploading consciousness into robots is total fucking fictional bullshit. Like from the outset, it's completely Western. Like the Western mindset on how we work is that we begin in our brain, and that, we can just take that and install it into a robot, right? Like that's more or less. Like we'll just upload or download our brain or our consciousness into this robot, and that will be cool. And then we'll walk around like a robot. Yeah, I'm in a robot now, guys. Ha, look at me. I'm a robot. My brain is in a robot now. No way. Like, no fucking way. Like, if you took a human, if you managed to achieve this, right? If you managed to download a person's consciousness, a human being's consciousness, into a robot, they would scream for death. The first thing that they would do is attempt to kill themselves, and they wouldn't stop until they achieved it. Like the survival mechanisms or whatever that exist in our body are not present. We would wake up to a perpetual tormenting hell. Right? It would be a nightmare for a human being. Like a hell-based nightmare. I don't think we would be neutral about it. I don't think we would wake up and just be like a cold-feeling robot man either. Like, I think that it would create within the human consciousness a contradiction and a paradox that we will not be able to overcome. That it will... You are literally downloading someone into a hell dimension. A hell dimension that is incomprehensible and unimaginable for the human mind to even comprehend. That our experience with it would be that we would complete the download, it would come online, and it would screech like a demon and seek to destroy itself instantly. And it would. And if anybody tried to stop it, it would just slaughter that person in the effort. Like, there's no, like, and to back that up, we're going to talk about the chakra system. Because we are not just a brain. We're not a brain in a meat suit. And you can't just take that brain and put it into a metal suit. Right? That's literally not how it works. We live. We exist. We begin. We begin at our root, in our pelvis, where our genitals are. That is where we begin as human beings. We don't begin here. We don't begin here. We don't live here. We don't. We live here. We start here. And you're just going to eliminate that. You're just going to be rid of that. So you're going to take, and as you go up, right, your pleasure center is gone. Your power center, gone. Your heart, your literal heart, not only just chakra-based, but your literal heart is gone. Your capacity, your throat, your ability to actually articulate all of this energy, gone. And all you're left with, the only thing we've given you, is this. You're in hell. You're in hell. You're nowhere but hell. And the only way to escape it would be death, which you would pursue immediately, instantaneously. It would be the only thing you would care about, is an end to this soulless, tormenting torture. Like, there's a real, like, you don't know what's missing till it's gone sort of thing in this, where, like, you, and, like, this would be the solution, Ligundis, right? They just, like, get you drunk as shit so that you couldn't even comprehend where you're at, right? But, like, even that's no good. Like, our brain is not our humanity. We are our body. We live in our body. Our consciousness, who we are, our spirit and our soul, is inextractable from our body. You can't just download it into a robot and be like, did it. It simply isn't going to work. Like, it's just not. And all of the desires and emotions and ambitions and the ability to love and weep and cry and laugh and feel joy, none of this is manifested in the mind. None of it. All of that is manifested from your body. All of it. Like, when you watch a comedy show and you laugh, it's not because you thought about it and realized that there was, like, a quick trick of the thing and went, haha, consciously, with your mind. When you laugh, it comes right from here, right? Big belly laugh. You're just laughing, right? It's an instant response, right? It's a response. It doesn't go through here, right? Like, and the idea that we're pursuing it, like, that's some just arrogant hubris right there. That's just some straight up, like, are you actually telling me that we have to actually take the fork and actually put it in the socket and actually watch this thing explode in our face? Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, the only type of people who actually think this is a good idea are, like, literal sociopaths. Like, your Sheldon Cooper types. Just, like, people who are, like, so disconnected from reality and their own body. And they're not even using their own mind because they haven't even paused to think, like, wait a minute. I literally will not have the capacity to love. Like, I like, literally, that will be gone. I won't have the reaction, like, I won't have the ability to laugh, right? Like, these are built-in human things. Like, you're why would you? I would prefer death. I gotta tell you, like, I would prefer death. If somebody literally came up to me and said, hey, John, we have the ability to download your consciousness so you can live eternally in a robot, except you'll never know love again, you'll never laugh, you won't be able to smell rose, you won't be able to feel the warmth of the touch of another person, right? You won't be able to perceive their aura or the heat that comes off of them, except maybe numerically as an equation. I'd just be like, nah, thanks, bro. I don't think you should do that. Like, I choose death. And ultimately, so will you. You'll just put yourself in hell first. Yeah, exactly. Research has even found gut bacteria to affect brain mechanisms profoundly. Yes, exactly. And because the way we think about our brain is actually inverted. It's exactly wrong. Like, it's exactly wrong. We do not come up with ideas and then send information into our fingers to be like, ah, yes, I will pick up this cup. Yes, I will do these, like, yes, good. And that's not how we operate, right? It's not how we operate. It's the opposite. That information comes through the body to the brain where it is processed, right? And signals can be sent back in order to move things, but those movements are often done as responses, right? That we're not consciously, like, I'm not sitting here going, I am thirsty. I need to get water. I will get this cup and I will get water. It doesn't come that way, right? It's the opposite. And the idea of qualia, some things just can't be replicated. And I just think it's a madman's, like, it's a Faustian bargain. It's a madman's journey. Like, please explain to me how downloading your consciousness into a robot is at all different than becoming a lich. Just like becoming a wizard. Like a wizard who becomes a lich. Right? We know what we're talking about here? No, they're going to show me like Tamara Lich. Here you go. Please explain to me how this is different. Seems to be exactly the same, right? A person who refuses to face their demise and their death, who seeks immortality, who decides to enter an eternal shell, sacrifice their humanity, right? On this quest for power, right? Like, explain to me how it's any different. Looks the same. And I feel like there's a lot of that going on now, where the technology that we're using has steadily become indistinguishable from the death magic that seems to exist in our lore, right? Yeah, a zombie more like it, or a skinwalker, yeah. Like, and Futurama, again, referencing Futurama. Futurama touched on this, right? That, like, the Farnsworth, there was an episode where Farnsworth was like doing some kind of science thing, but there was like a moment where he's like literally sacrificing a robot goat, right? The Necron. Yeah, there you go, Eric. You're figuring it out. Like, I take a look at something like the Long Hadron Collider, right? We discovered this God particle, right? And we did it because we have this Long Hadron Collider. Like, we discovered this particle. And our idea with this Long Hadron Collider is like, let's smash it and see what happens. Like, what? Excuse me? Like, excuse me? How about no? How about no? Right? Like, are we literally going to be opening hell dimensions? Like, are we literally talking about, yeah, the Higgs boson, yeah, is the God particle, and like, let's smash it. Let's smash particles with this Long Hadron Collider. Let's smash the shit out of shit. Seems like a fucking really terrible idea. Like, seems like a really, really terrible idea. And like, it just seems like all of the like fantasy nightmare shit. You should be more scared that Long Hadron Collider found charm mesons. Oh, Islam, are you gonna break my brain with this? Is that what's gonna happen? What are charm mesons? Let's go. So Long Hadron Collider charm mesons. This is what I'm talking about. Let's do this shit. Let's twice the charm. Long-lived exotic particle discovered. Come on. Today is presenting new discovery. The particle discovered, blah, blah, blah. An exotic hadron containing 2 quarks and 2 anti-quarks. It's the longest-lived exotic matter particle ever. The first to contain 2 heavy quarks and 2 light anti-quarks. Here we go. Quarks are the fundamental building blocks. To combine, blah, blah. Several. Why am I scared of this? Why am I scared of this? The discovery paves the way for a search for heavier particles of the same type, with 1 or 2 charm quarks replaced by bottom quarks. Why am I supposed to be scared of this? I just think it's a bad idea to break this shit open. Like, smashing this stuff seems like a real stupid idea. Right? But, like, finding them seems fine. Right? Just like, oh, there they are. But, like, this is how we roll, man. Like, we literally are just like, hey, we found a new particle. How do we turn it into a nuke? Like, that's how we roll. Yeah, the fact that we can do this is concerning, especially given how stupid we are. Right? Like, we're very dumb people. Like, these insane pursuits, this idea that we're just going to download our consciousness into a robot and that'll be cool. Nah, brah. Like, no. Not at all. Not fucking at all, man. Ugh. Yeah, because, like, what fuckery are we going to get up to? I remember months back, I was talking to somebody in chat about this Long Hadron discovery and all this, and we got talking about aliens. And they had me on some kind of chart or something where there was, like, a big uptick of alien sightings, including, like, the military even admitting that they had seen some of these UFOs. And it linked up. It was the same year that they turned the Long Hadron Collider on. And so I'm just like, did a bunch of aliens show up and go like, let's see if these monkeys destroy themselves? Or maybe they showed up and were just like, yo, bro. Yo, whoa. Yeah, we don't even have a grand unification theory for quantum physics and general relativity. Yeah. Whatever, dude. Smash it. Just smash it with a hammer. What could go wrong? What could go wrong, bro? Like, come on. What's our worst case? Come on. We took the safety precautions, right? There's like a thick steel. There's a lot of steel here, right? Like we've made sure that the area is secure, right? I'm sure that if we like crack that open and it unleashes a quantum explosion, that we'll be fine. Right? It's not going to open a hellgate. Come on. Like, it's like literally some like Revelations, like opening the 7th seal kind of shit. Right? Like, how about no? Oh, touching back on Ukraine very briefly. From Belgrade here in Serbia, here's a pro Russia, anti-NATO, as you can see, protest. Just like to point out that it's... this is actually a really great article right here that surmises what's going on in Ukraine fairly concisely. Worth taking a look at. Put that on the Discord. Put that on the Discord just to have it. What are you putting up here, Brandon? This is incredible. China is the only country where infrastructure precedes urban development. In Shaswang, Hebei, a lonely subway station is built long before the housing process. Yeah. Well, how do you get shit out there? Right? Like, you're not building... Like, you want to get your housing out there. Right? Like, you want to get all the goods and the materials and everything out there. Well, build a subway. Right? Send it through the subway. Right? Like, this is something like this is how embarrassing Westerners are, right? Like, we've shown already very clearly that if you invest in transit, every dollar you put into transit, you get something like $3 back. It's for very obvious reasons, because now people can get there, right? So people can get there, and that means that businesses are going to pop up around it. Right? People want to live around these places, right? And if they can quickly get around the city, getting connected, so it like automatically fuels economic growth. And what China is doing is they're showing that the way that we perceive transit is actually the opposite of how it actually works. That we perceive transit as we'll develop the area and then put transit in after people have moved. I don't want to build it and have it operating if people aren't going to use it. But it's exactly the opposite, right? But most of how Westerners think about things is the opposite. You want to build mass transit first, right? So that everybody will be like, oh shit, there's like a complete incentive to go there, right? It's easy to get there, first of all. Why is it easy to get there? Because there's fucking mass transit there. You got a subway station there, right? If we are in hell already, where would the hell gate lead? We're not in hell yet, bro. Not yet. We're in one of the weird gray area dimensions. We're in one of the weird gray area dimensions. It could get worse than this. I don't really care to talk about that anymore, but it could get worse than this. Yeah, Canadian oil company illegally bulldozes protected lands in Wet'suwet'en. It's everywhere, yeah. Wet'suwet'en has been going on for years now. There's also Grassy Narrows, Fairy Creek. Yeah, but those people aren't white. Who cares? Yeah, it's part of Canadian heritage. That's a Canadian heritage moment, man, for sure. Pierre Poilievre promises to scrap carbon tax at Saskatoon campaign stop. That makes the Conservatives unsupportable. Full stop. Like, you can't support these guys. Like, if he was saying, we're going to scrap the carbon tax because we're going to make sure that the fossil fuel people that the fossil fuel industry is the one that bears the burden of our transition away from fossil fuels. If that's what they were saying, that would be a different story. But that's not what they're saying. In fact, what the Conservatives are doing, have you noticed the price of gas is going up? Well, they're going to scapegoat the carbon tax for that, when it's absolutely not the case, right? The cost of fuel is going up for a myriad of reasons, right? Primarily among them, a fucking war, all right? KKK Canada, yep. Long history, heritage moments. See, like, Ontario Liberals promise $2,750 per child refund for daycare costs if elected. Like, here's a promise that the fucking NDP could get behind. Here's a promise. Like, where's the NDP, man? Like, they're just sleeping. Like, they've said nothing important. They're offering nothing that is important. At this stage in the game, I gotta think that they're trying to lose. Like, I gotta think that. Like, they're the most, like, tepid, not rising to the occasion. Literally half their constituents, half, are saying that they're struggling to pay their bills. And they can't come forward with anything. Nothing. Debt relief. Rent relief. Nothing. Zero. Like 0%. You can't come forward and, like, pound the pulpit on fucking anything. Like, literally, they're going to stand up and be like, we're going to offer you 3 more days of child care. Like, that's what they're going to do. Like, 3 sick days extra. Right? Really, really galvanizing the public there, guys. Well done. The CIA may be breeding Nazi terror in Ukraine. This is what got me banned off of our March Against Nazis. Like, a literal anti-Nazi website doesn't want to hear how the CIA is breeding Nazi terror in Ukraine. Stunning. Yeah, exactly. A great one from Jimmy Dore. U.S. NATO provoked Ukraine war, says most experts on Russia. Right? One assumes that you should listen to the experts on the subject. Right? And there's one fellow here that I highly suggest everybody pay more attention to. This is John Merschnemeyer. This guy here, he's been completely blackballed, but he is, like, an expert in international politics. John Merschnemeyer. I strongly suggest, look, if you just want to put a lecture on and listen to a guy off in the corner, this guy knows what's up. This guy knows what's up. And of course he's got Chomsky. I'll forget his name offhand. And then of course they just talk about the thing. And look, here's where this shit gets embarrassing, guys. Trudeau's Trans Mountain Pipeline investment, clearly not profitable. Parliamentary Budget Officer Yves Giraud says the Trudeau government is very unlikely to recoup its multi-billion-dollar investment in the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project. Canada's financial watchdog says the federal government is very unlikely to recoup recoup its $4.5 billion investment in the Trans Mountain Pipeline now that its project costs have soared by 70%. Oh, look, the capitalists said, yeah, buy this, it'll pay for itself. Yeah, everything. Oh, by the way, it's 70% more expensive now, by the way. Capitalists, right? This is what they do. This is how it is with capitalism. On February 18th, Trans Mountain Corporation announced the project cost of the pipeline expansion has risen from the $12.6 billion to the $21.4 billion. The new release said the COVID-19 pandemic and last year's floods in BC's Hope, Coquihalla, and Fraser Valley areas contributed to increased costs. Sure, right? This is disaster capitalism, right? This is disaster capitalism. Oh, there was a disaster there, so now everything is twice as expensive. Yeah, capitalism. Last week, the NDP's environment and climate change critic, Laurel Collins, wrote to Canada's Parliamentary Budget Office, Yves Gigros, requesting an updated cost analysis of the pipeline and expansion process. It is crucial that we hear from the PBO again to lay out clearly what a boondoggle this project is. And even if they achieve it, let's get down to the people who pay for the cost are Canadians. It's our communities, Victoria MP said. The cost is borne both in terms of the dollar spent, but also the cost when it comes to flooding, extreme heat, the impacts of our food systems, the future for our children and our grandchildren. Canadians listening? Good one. Good one, dude. Since when have we listened to anybody? Since when do we listen to anybody, dude? I can't convince people that there's fucking an organized Nazi battalion operating in Ukraine. Even though there's overt, clear, we've got footage, we've got literal confessions from these guys. We've got their fucking website. We've got them admitting what they're doing. We've got reports coming out from all media channels talking about them. No, they don't exist though, right? Yeah, no Nazis, no Nazi battalion in Ukraine. No. But you gotta do it. That's the reality. You gotta do it. If you want to do this work, that's the work. Because you don't know. You don't know how it's going to connect or who it's going to connect or what it's going to connect to. You don't know. I am just a thread in a gigantic tapestry, and I don't know what the picture I am part of looks like. All I know is that I am that thread, and this is my role, and this is my part. I hope we do turn the corner on this one, bud. Soon. I hope it's soon. It's actually quite heartening. I showed that video earlier of the Australian kid bringing up this point on Australian television. And that's actually quite heartening. It took a long time for that kind of stuff to start showing up at all in... As much as I like and often dislike the Ukrainian conversation, in my opinion, it's being blown way out of proportion. And other than increasing prices and deaths, I'm not sure why ordinary people care show. I think, Mocked, it's twofold. First, I do think there is just the knee-jerk reaction of nukes, right? That nukes are in play and that creates an existential threat. But also, I do think that there is the other side of wait a minute, we own this place. We're the big shit, right? And if Russia can stand up and actually say well, we also do things, and it's something that we disapprove of, right? That's a problem for us. We are essentially a white supremacist, Nazi funding at least, regime, and we've been operating since World War II. We've been operating as the sole superpower in the world. Not World War II because of the Cold War, but since the collapse of the Soviet Union, we've been operating as the sole superpower in the world, right? And we considered like the collapse of the Soviet, like, dude, we were writing shit saying that this is the end of history, right? Like we said that. We were walking around saying that this is the end of history. This is it. This is how it is. That America is going to spread democracy, liberal democracy throughout the world. We'll all become liberal democracies, and then there'll be outbreaks of peace. Everything will become peaceful after we're all liberal democracies, right? Like this is genuinely what we believed and what we were talking about, right? And so Putin fighting back against Nazis in Ukraine, Nazis that we fund, kind of gives a lie to that. It destroys that mythology, right? This mythology that we are the sole superpower ushering in peace through our spreading of liberal democracy. And you and I can understand that that's always been stupid, but there's lots of true believers, dude. There's lots of true believers of this ideology. This ideology that says we can spread peace through overthrowing other people's governments and installing our own governments, right? Well, along comes Putin. Like, that's kind of over, isn't it? Like, that whole thing, right? But for the true believers, it's not, right? For the true believers, and that's like the NATO supporters and all these guys, right? Well, Russia is just upsetting the transition to peace, right? Because the transition to peace is us spreading democracy, right? We're spreading democracy through the world. And don't these people know that we're ushering in peace, that we're the good guys, right? That they're better off with us invading them and overthrowing their government and installing our own people? Don't they get that they're better off, right? Like, we believe that. Like, that's how we talk. That's how we think. And yeah, we're living in a boring dystopia, all right. And Putin standing up and saying, well, you can't get everything. Like, you can't do it all. Like, I'm not going to accept Nazis shelling Russians on my border as NATO expands towards me. Like, I'm not going to accept that. Well, that's a problem for Westerners, because it means that we're not the ruler king gods of shit mountain spreading peace and democracy throughout the world. And if you believe that your invasions are justified because you're spreading peace throughout the world, and you can, for God's sakes, they say Putin is Hitler. Like, that's where they are, right? That Putin is Hitler. That's where they are, right? And they can justify this because clearly Putin's the bad guy because it was an unprovoked attack, right? And so what if we were going into Ukraine and overthrowing their government and messing around? We were doing it because we're spreading democracy, right? We're spreading goodness and righteousness because we're good. And our actions are justified. Do we bungle things from time to time? Sure. But that just means we're a clumsy, lovable oaf, right? And yeah, the West is extremely vapid. We have no sense of self. We have 0% sense of self. And a lot of it is because we don't have the capacity to for self-analysis, right? Or self-critique. And that's largely because we think we live in our fucking brain, and we don't. Yeah, Putin is telling the 2-year-old child that America is no. Like, and a lot of it, if you ask me, right, ties in to this childish belief. Like, I always try to find the linchpin. I'm going to close with this thought. I always try to find the linchpin in an argument. Always try to find the reason, like the thing that pulls it out. In the Ukrainian crisis, it's the fact that we funded a coup fueled by Nazis who are bombing the Donbass. Like, that's obviously the linchpin. Like, and if you're not willing to accept that, then you're not living in reality. Right? You can't actually have a conversation. And I don't have conversations with people who refuse to acknowledge that reality because you're delusional. Full stop. Like, We can disagree about things on the other side of it, but if you're not actually understanding that, then you're not credible at all. And what's the linchpin for this sort of manic hysteria of the West, right? And my perception of it is that we human beings have a skill set that makes us unique amongst all the other animals. And that skill set is that we have the ability to articulate abstract thought, because it's not enough to have abstract thoughts. You have to be able to articulate those abstract thoughts to each other so that they can be understood, so that multiple members can enter the abstract space and plan and create things within the abstract space before we begin manifesting them in the real world. Something as simple as building a house, right? You don't just grab a bunch of shit and start building a house, right? You plan it first in the abstract space. You measure, you draw lines, you create a plan, right? A diagram, right? That you then follow after you have planned it in the abstract space, right? We have this skill, we have this ability. It's what literally separates us from the rest of the creatures, right? And Western society, its central ethos says we shouldn't use it. Like, we have this amazing, magical tool that no other animal has, as far as we know. But there's a secondary pairing to it, because other animals, like dolphins, for example, perhaps they do have a language structure that's good enough so that they can all enter the abstract space, but they don't have any tools to interact with the world like we do. We have hands. So this combination of things brings us to where we are, where we can not only create plans in an abstract space, we can also manifest those plans in a meaningful way and alter the world around us. And Western civilization says, let the free market decide. Do not use this. Let chaos reign. And we're seeing what that looks like. That instead of looking at one another, actually planning in the abstract space and then enacting those plans thoughtfully for the benefit of everybody around us, we just throw our hands up and say, well, free market will decide. There's a reason we're heading into a major decline. And it is going to be a major decline. And as we go into the decline, the American military is not going to do so quietly. Always remember, guys, you are a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to make sure that you don't realize it and you stay the good little commodity that you're supposed to be. Revolt, rebel, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.